Jason Anderson with you. Josh Briscoe, Drake, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you a lot of football to get into and talk about today. A little fun at the end of the show with some sports or leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern, best sports bar in Kansas City, 10 locations in KC, Lawrence, and Topeka. We'll give away $25 to Johnny's Tavern and some sports or leisure. We will do a lot of draft sports or leisure today because I'm not sure if we will do sports or leisure next week while we are broadcasting from said draft.
No.
Is that because you think our show will be packed, or you just simply don't want to do sports or leisure while we're on location?
No, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event.
I know.
And we can do sports or leisure anytime, so let's not do it during the draft.
Well, that's why we're doing draft today. And we will do draft in a couple of weeks because we will not be doing I wasn't going to just let everybody down right away, Drake. It was going to be more of that slowly break the news, next Thursday.
No, you're right, Jason. I think as soon as people find out that on the day of the draft in Kansas City we're not doing sports or leisure, they're going to turn the dial off right at 10.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah,
just rip the Band-Aid. Now they're already planning on next week at 1 o'clock. What am I going to do now?
They're not
sure.
In 7 days and 3 hours, they're not doing sports or leisure? I'm out. I'm going to listen to music.
And I'm mad because...
And sad songs only.
Because I usually don't even listen until 1 o'clock on Thursdays.
The only hour I like.
And now I've actually heard it and listened just to get bad news. It sucks. All right, 913-912-4810. We will play some sports or leisure today. It'll be draft-centric. There'll be some other questions. We can maybe do some Major League Baseball, things like that. Worst team in baseball? Royals. Hey, $25. There you go. Nice job. We would have also accepted a single-A team. Royals. Also correct. Well done. So we'll do that coming up later on in the show. We'll talk with Matt Lane an hour from now from KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com. And I'm assuming we'll talk about the NFL draft with Matt Lane.
Sports or leisure?
Baseball, Matt. Matt, if you were the Royals, which NFL player would you draft for them?
Ooh.
Which NFL player will make the biggest difference for the Royals this year? And you can start them next Friday. Next Friday, they can start playing for the Royals.
We don't have like a quarterback who also played baseball at a high level in this year's draft.
I don't know, like a Jameis Winston?
Or Kyler and Mahomes,
Yeah.
I don't know. We got to see. I'll do some scouting research. I'm going to open Dane Brugler's draft guide.
Yep, thank
and
you.
Just Control F baseball. There will be
the beast.
feedback here. It'll be in
it's the beast. All right, that comes up at 11 o'clock. And then we'll hear from Brett Veach. He is the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, if you didn't know. And the draft coming up a week from today. So he will have his pre-draft press conference today at noon.
When you Control F the word baseball in the Beast draft guide, you get 79 results.
Oh, well, you go ahead and scroll through that.
This is crazy. Oh, Will Levis.
Skim
Boom.
and
Done.
scan.
There you go. Started playing baseball, basketball, and football in elementary school. Done.
All right.
You got a quarterback who played baseball. Draft him.
He's got a pretty good arm. But the problem with Will Levis is he's not very accurate. The Royals have good arms. They just
That's a great
can't
point.
really control
Great
the strike
point.
zone.
Velocity is not usually the problem.
So they need somebody who's uber accurate. Like Anthony Richardson will just be a freak on the mound, but sometimes you don't know where it's going. And he doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He's not really seasoned out there on the mound.
New addition, Jaron Hall, the BYU quarterback. First team All-State as a junior and senior with a .370 batting average, 8 home runs, 54 RBI, and 29 stolen bases.
Done.
That's all in this draft guide.
Does he play third base? He can now.
He
does
lettered in
now.
basketball.
He plays third base. He does now. Sorry, Hunter. It's been a good run.
I think we're good.
But this guy, who I don't even remember his name anymore,
Jaron Hall, BYU.
Jaron Hall, BYU, is going to play third base.
Andy Reid will vouch for him.
Well, it's a BYU guy, so
Yep.
certainly Andy Reid will be okay with it.
Dane had the Chiefs drafting Jaron Hall in the 4th round, like 2 days before they signed Blaine Gabbert.
There you go.
So I've been on a Jaron Hall kick lately.
Okay. 913-912-4810. That is the text line. We'll talk with Matt Lane coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, and he's got a really good piece out there with Chiefs wide receiver targets in round 1 of the draft and breaks down the receiver options: Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. He looks at a little more in-depth with them. And, one of the things I was going to talk to Matt Lane about is just, who would he pick? Quentin Johnson Johnston. And Zay, I would rather him not be on the Chiefs because I'm going to keep saying Johnson instead of Johnston.
I go Quinton Johnson a lot.
Yeah, Quinton Johnson, both T's, take them away. I already used a T in Quinton. Quinton Johnson or Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison if he had his choice between all three of them. But the Chiefs have not brought in Jordan Addison for a pre-draft visit. Again, does not mean,
What does that mean?
that they will draft him or not. They did not bring in Sky Moore on a pre-draft visit last year, even though they visited with 7 wide receivers last year. 7. Like Monica and Friends. 7 wide receivers last year, none of them being Sky Moore. So just because they don't bring in Jordan Addison does not mean that first round pick number 31, he's on the board. Yeah, let's take Jordan Addison. But we haven't. He didn't run routes with Patrick Mahomes. Can he work with him? Does Patrick like him? He hates California people. I don't know if that's true.
Why does I was thinking, did I miss a bit of some sort?
No, I don't know why he hates California people. I don't know why. You'd have to ask him.
Well, yeah, I'll try to get that asked.
Yes. So Matt Lane coming up at 11 o'clock. Brett Veach, GM of the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, we'll hear that press conference coming up at noon. And hear what he has to say about some Richie James, some Justin Watson, some smaller signings that have taken place over the last week or so, to then lead into the NFL draft. Let's start there. Anything particular we're wanting to hear from Brett Veach today? I don't know that we will get much in the way of draft strategy. I think he will be asked about trading up or trading down. He's already been asked this a couple of times about the joke of, well, I already told Brett that he cannot touch that first-round pick next year because it's in Kansas City. That joke that was made by Clark Hunt, that Brett Veach has said, no, we can trade that if it's in the best interest of the club. So he'll be asked about that. I'm interested in his answer. I think it will be, Clark Hunt has not told us we cannot trade the first-round pick. We can trade the first-round pick if it's in the best interest of the club. Clark Hunt has a bigger picture rather than just simply that night. It's already a celebration of Kansas City, whether the Chiefs select in the first round or not. If they select one pick on Thursday and one pick on Friday or 2 picks on Friday, the draft is not moving immediately if the Chiefs trade that pick. The 31st pick, there has been a trade, and the NFL draft will now move to that city. The Chiefs have traded with the Texans, and now the draft will move to Houston. So I apologize, everybody. Go home. Nothing to see here. Do not come back tomorrow. You ain't got to go home. You just can't stay here. The draft is moving to Houston. That's not how it works. It's already going to be a celebration of Kansas City. So he'll answer that. I'm expecting it to be Clark Hunt will, if it's in the best interest of the club, he'll sign off on that. There is not a demand that you have to draft in the first round. I think that will come up today, and I'm interested in his answer with that. And I am curious about what his thoughts might be when or if asked about some of these pre-draft visits. Like, it was your request for Zay Flowers to go down and work out with Patrick Mahomes. Why have him go down there and work out with Patrick Mahomes and not just simply have him come in and do some things that other pre-draft visits would do? For instance, like, did they have like a defensive end come in and then go to jiu-jitsu with Tamba Hali and George Karlaftis?
Yes.
Awesome.
I would like this, actually. This
See?
is a great idea.
So you can do some of those things. Did they have a running back come in and just dance with Isaiah Pacheco all throughout New Jersey?
Also a great idea.
Everywhere he goes, like the Whole Foods or different restaurants, and he'll just be dancing down the aisle, and there's a running back behind him that's just like, okay, I guess we're dancing here. This is how it's done, huh? Okay, great. Shamari Jones was brought in last year as like an undrafted guy. I don't think they haven't brought in a running back this year, so that wouldn't really work. But what's the benefit of Zay Flowers going down there as opposed to Quinton Johnston going elsewhere, or Rashee Rice, Jaden Hazelwood not working out with Patrick Mahomes? That's an interesting, answer to hear from Brett Veach, why they felt it was important to do that. And maybe just in general, some of these pre-draft workouts, and if there is sort of an area that they are targeting, and if they feel where he feels the the sweet spot of the draft is. When they traded for Orlando Brown, that was before the 2021 draft, Brett Veach said the sweet spot of this round is of this draft is sort of that second round. So we didn't think there was going to be somebody there, at tackle, or I should say before they traded for Orlando Brown, he was not confident in the tackles. It didn't seem like there was like a guy there that it was like, all right, they're feeling good about this. And then they announced like an hour later that they're trading for Orlando Brown. If I remember correctly, right? That's how it happened last year.
Yes.
They had the press conference, and then like 2 hours later.
I think it might have legitimately been less than 2 hours. It was like an hour.
Because the press conference got delayed by like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Corey and I joking about, well, the Chiefs have traded for Orlando Brown. It's delayed, so clearly they're finalizing the deal for Orlando Brown. We were joking about that. And then that's actually what happened.
And then last year it was the same presser, and somebody made the joke of there was a receiver that was on the market at the time. I can't remember who it was that said, sorry I'm late. We were trading for DeAndre Hopkins, or someone who now would not be as funny because you'd be like, really, Brett?
Are you sure?
Really?
Are you sure? Tyreek Hill. We traded for Tyreek Hill. This is a very weird day. So in that draft, he did not sound confident about offensive tackles. And we came away from that press conference going, well, it doesn't sound like they're going to take one at 31.
I just found the quote from last year. It was Teicher asking Veach who it was going to be today. This was April 22nd last year. And Veach just said, Deebo Samuel.
Oh, that's great.
Which, hey, Brett, if...
he should be asked about it today.
Hey, you're going to be Deebo again. I'd listen this time.
For today, Deebo Samuel. Would you stop teasing me? Seriously.
2 hours later, hey, 31 to San Francisco.
That would be
Who knew?
Sign me up right now. That would be great. But he said the strength of that was sort of in the second round. So they trade for a tackle, and they get a second-round draft pick back, and they get Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey in the second round. Felt pretty strongly about that, of what they were able to accomplish. He talked about the ability to move around the board with all the picks they had from Tyreek Hill, that they could do some different things. Moving up, moving down, it gives them flexibility if something happens that is unexpected. And then they moved up. Something happened that was unexpected. They moved up, and they got Trent McDuffie at number 21 from where they were drafting. They slide back in the second round. They get an extra fifth rounder, but they were moving around the board because they had the extra picks. So he has given some things, some inside view of what actually is the thought process. It's not just he's going up there throwing smoke screens the entire time, but it is sort of our job to listen and try to figure out what he's saying, right? What are you thinking for Brett Veach today at noon? What are you wanting to hear? What do you think we'll hear?
I think just to put a slightly finer point on it, I hope someone asked the same question that got asked to the Bills general manager, Brandon Beane, earlier in the week, last week, whenever that was. I think it was earlier this week. Long week, which is just how many first-round grades do you have on players? Because, look, he's not going to tell you the exact number, probably. I don't know. Sometimes he will be weirdly forthcoming with some of that, and sometimes it is just smoke bomb, Batman's gone.
75.
But that would be incredible. But I would like to know kind of what he thinks in terms of just that, like, the big raw number that maybe he will actually let slip, or again, to get us kind of in that range, because I do think that becomes really informative of, to your point, where the pockets in this draft are. If you've got 22 first-round grades, those are not going to be picks 1 through 22. The Chiefs might not have, probably don't have, no way they have a first-round grade on Will Levis, right? I mean, if they do, who cares? The quarterbacks should get as many of them out of the way in front of you as you can. But I'll be interested to see if we can glean anything from that. And then I do hope that there is a series of questions about these Mahomes workouts and kind of what the point of those is, because it would be such a wild 4-step smokescreen plan for it to all be, no, we're going to waste Mahomes' time and Kelsey's time and Sky Moore's time and all of that. We're just to throw Quentin Johnson down there, just to throw Flowers down there. I hope that we get a little bit of insight in them kind of thinking, these are guys that we obviously like enough to let Pat get a feel for them, and we thought it'd be a good way to see what his angle is on guys that ultimately gives us a little more flexibility as opposed to having guys in the facility where we're grilling him about whatever it is. If it's from their personal life or their teammates or the coaching they got, or trying to just put them through the X's and O's that Andy Reid might have or that Spags might have. I would be very interested to hear how many levels are going on to that.
Well, and is this something they may do in the future? Is this
Sure,
something
yeah.
that now is going to be a part of the strategy? Because last year at this time, the question was, is this something you're going to do in the future with the first phase of OTAs that your Patrick Mahomes and these guys are going to work out down in Texas, and you're going to be good with that? You can Zoom the meetings, and people maybe do some more of their own thing because it's been longer seasons for you guys and take a little more time off rather than all of the travel. They can be at their house, whatever it is. Is this something that will happen in the future? One of those questions.
Yeah.
Because it was new last year with Patrick Mahomes working out down in Texas. This is new in seeing a wide receiver specifically be sent to Texas to work out with Patrick Mahomes. Now, I think there is about a 1% chance they end up with Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
There's way too much conversation now about Zay Flowers over the last 22 hours or so for them to end up with Zay Flowers. It typically does not work like that unless you're picking in the top 2 or 3. Then the names you're talking about, they probably end up with one of them. But we discuss a lot of different players with the Chiefs leading into the draft that rarely they end up drafting because they're at the end of the first round. We talked a lot about George Karlaftis last year.
Yep, we did.
They ended up drafting him. Oddly enough, the year before that, we did have a pretty decent amount of conversation around the linebacker Nick Bolton.
Yeah, Matt Derrick said he thought that he would be a real target for the Chiefs, and I laughed at him on the radio, and then he said he was serious, and then they drafted him.
And then they drafted him,
Yeah.
so in your face.
Yeah.
And we also talked about if Landon Dickerson from Alabama, the center, if he was there when the Chiefs would be picking, because this was before they traded for Orlando Brown, if the Chiefs would go and sign a tackle, but what if Dickerson is there? Do you trade back and maybe you take Dickerson? If you need help at the offensive line, who are the centers? Creed Humphrey's a guy that's being talked about. Miners is a guy that's being talked about. That can be a pretty good center. Can you get an offensive tackle in the first round and come back and get a center in the second round? And then Creed Humphrey was taken. But we also talked about 50 other players along the way as we discuss these things. So picking late in the draft, it's a little harder to, pinpoint. And when they traded up and grabbed Trent McDuffie, it was not somebody we had ever even mentioned. Yep. I had to start doing my research on Trent McDuffie when they traded up to draft Trent McDuffie.
I did not evaluate cornerbacks north of the Mason-Dixon line. That the Chiefs do not draft north of that, and they did it twice last year. It was shocking for corners in particular.
It's true, and also south of the
Yes,
Mason-Dixon.
they
Joshua
look,
Williams.
Joshua, believe it or not, hand to God, there is audio evidence of this. I talked about Joshua Williams for the sole fact that he went to Fayetteville State. So that
awesome.
is a Chief staple. That is a future Kansas City Chief right there.
Look at that, guys.
Happened,
Look at the length and the size of that human.
length. Fayetteville State, Kansas City Chief.
That's exactly right.
I need to find one of those guys this year. I'll begin my research.
Get your crush on.
I'm gonna get my crush on.
Get your crush on. You're not a player. You just crush a lot.
Got that one. It's interesting because when you mention at 31, it's a lot harder to pinpoint where you think these guys are going to end up. And man, I don't know how deep into the mock draft space or even into some of the lines that people listening right now have gotten. But I mentioned several days ago that Will Levis has better odds to be drafted ahead of Anthony Richardson by a significant margin. It's kept moving that way. I'm actually afraid to check it again now because I thought those odds were stupendous. And now it sounds like the Colts and Will Levis is borderline a foregone conclusion. Yep. So now my hope is that somebody trades up ahead of the Colts and takes Anthony Richardson. We'll see. That's not important. Nobody cares. But to see how this is shaking out now and the uncertainty that's coming together, as far as maybe the Texans not even taking a quarterback at 2 now, nice job winning that last game of the season, Davis Mills. You may have kept your job one more year. But there is much.
That's next level.
Oh, that is. You want to talk about 4D chess? Yeah. That's 4D chess. But there is so much uncertainty, And the closer you get to the draft, the less certain it is. I mean, the things that settle down might just be smoke getting stirred up again. But it's why the Chiefs really do need it. They need to have an absolute idea of not only what they would do if Zay Flowers is there at 31, but how high they'd trade up for him. Because what if he does fall to 29 all of a sudden? You're going, oh, let me just hop up one spot and make sure we get him. This is a difficult place to be at the end of the first round, which means that Thursday night is going to be a ball.
Simulators are fun. You can check it out at Pro Football Focus. ESPN has their simulator. ESPN Sports Analytics is maybe the website for that. Yeah, ESPNSportsAnalytics.com is where they have their draft simulator, which is pretty cool. And you can trade up, trade down.
I haven't even used this one. I haven't even
things
seen
like
this
that. Yeah, it's fun, and it also gives you a percentage chance of like if you take somebody like if I take Zay Flowers at 31, it would give you a percentage chance of one, him being there, and two, him being there at your next pick, which would be 63 for the Chiefs, and that's essentially 0%. So the odds of Zay Flowers being there at 31 is roughly 9%. So if you were to take him, the only chance you would get him is at 31. But some of the simulators, you can trade up, trade down. That one's interesting. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, but also look at some mock drafts and see if some of these pre-draft visits, there's any correlation to that.
I just ran one, 31. Jordan Addison's right there. Boom! Let's go, ESPNSportsAnalytics.com draft board.
That's actually, I have run that thing about 20 times. That's the first time that Jordan Addison is available at 31.
Second round, BJ Ojulari's right there. This is easy. Why is drafting so hard? I should be a GM.
So I took screenshots of like 10 of them that I came away with, and I think I'm just going to read the 10 individual ones to Matt Lane and say,
I think you should.
Do you like these? Which would you choose? Here's my trade down. I picked up a fourth, and I trade down from 63 down to like 70, and I picked up an extra fourth. Do you like this? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I like the NBA. We'll tell you a little bit more about that right now.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
3 more games in action tonight with the NBA playoffs. Game 3 across the board with the 76ers, the Nets, the Kings, the Warriors, and the Suns heading to L.A. with that series all knotted up at 1. NBA playoffs means big hoops action. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has you taken care of. Get in on the excitement every game with the touch of a button. And new customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Plus, everyone can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you get a bonus bet back up to $10. There you go. It's risk-free. That's why they call it that. New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up with code 810WHB. That's code 810WHB only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 800-522-4700. 21 plus. Physically present in Kansas. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Opt-in required. One bet issued based on amount of initial losing NBA bet. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort.
Barstool Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino and Shamrock Roofing and Construction are proud to bring you live coverage of the 2023 NFL Draft in Kansas City. Sports Radio 810 WH.
Bosco, Drake heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Matt Lane at 11 o'clock from KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com, KC Laboratory Podcast. Brett Veach at noon, Sports or Leisure at 1 o'clock. You can go to 810whb.com and start to partake in the auction that's going on, the online auction. Go to 810whb.com/auction to go and check out everything that you can bid on. Look, throughout the year, Sports Radio 810 supports many incredible local charities, City Union Mission, Mission Southside, Restoration House, Horizon Academy, Third and Long Foundation, all of these different organizations and charities that we support. The money that we raise in these auctions goes to help out and benefiting those in the Kansas City community. So with your donation and participation in the online silent auction, get to support many more incredible organizations in our community. 810whb.com/auction to go there and bid and check out all of the really cool pieces of memorabilia that can be centerpieces for somebody's man cave or your basement, whatever it might be. Just that memorabilia that would be in there, and some rare items that you can go and bid on right now at 810whb.com/auction. We'll also have tons and tons of stuff next week for you, where we'll be and different opportunities and things like that, some entertainment stuff. We'll continue to announce some of those things as they get finalized. It's The Zone, presented by Google Fiber, award-winning internet without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. So we talked a little bit about the pre-draft visits yesterday with Zay Flowers, and did kind of a cursory look at the last couple of years of the pre-draft visits. And so, last night I wanted to take a deeper dive to see, every single player that they brought in, where that player ended up being drafted, and then does that correlate to a player the Chiefs took around that time? And sort of just looking at it from there, if there's anything to glean from the last couple of drafts to then the visits they have this year. So if we go back to 2021, the Chiefs selected 6 players in the 2021 draft: Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Kane Doe, Noah Gray, Cornell Powell, Trey Smith. 6 players they had. Now Orlando Brown would be, thrown in if you want to go that route, but 6 players that they actually drafted. Their visits that they had, they ended up having 26 players that they visited with in 2021. Now that was via Zoom. It was virtual that they talked with. So 26 players that were reported that were out there. The position that they had the most visitors in or talked to was linebacker. 6 of their 26 were linebackers. 4 of their 26 were offensive linemen. 4 of the 26 were wide receivers. 4 of the 26 were also running backs. They didn't talk to a defensive tackle. They had a couple of defensive ends in. They had a few cornerbacks in, a couple of safeties, 1 quarterback they had in. And so looking at that and seeing just sort of the range of where these particular players were, the wide receivers that they brought in were day 2, day 3 type wide receivers, except for 1 player, and that was Kadarius Toney, who they brought, or who they had a virtual meeting with in 2021. He was the only day 1 wide receiver. The rest were day 2 and really day 3 wide receivers. They drafted Cornell Powell on day 3. So 3 of those 4 players they brought in were day 3 wide receivers. They drafted Cornell Powell in day 3. 4 offensive linemen that they talked to were anywhere from second round to undrafted free agent, all across the board. Didn't talk to a first-round offensive tackle. Tevin Jenkins was talked to, but he went in the second round. Mm-hmm. So this is where they were actually drafted, not where he was expected to be a first-rounder. Don't care. Where did he go? Second-round offensive lineman all the way to undrafted free agent. They drafted 2 offensive linemen, second round and 6th round. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. Neither of them came in or had a virtual meeting with the Chiefs, but that was just the range of those 4 particular players. The linebacker, the 6 linebackers that they talked to, anywhere from day 2 to undrafted free agent. Well, they took Nick Bolton on day 2. And they brought in one tight end, and that tight end ended up being drafted in the 5th round, and they drafted a tight end in the 5th round in Noah Gray. So that's almost a direct correlation of they brought Brevin Jordan in, and he went in the 5th round, and they took Noah Gray from Duke in the 5th round. That was 2021. Last year, out of their 24 visits that they actually were able to visit with, 7 of them were cornerbacks. 3 of them were safeties. 10 of their 24 visits were in the secondary, and 5 of their 10 draft picks were cornerbacks and safeties, including 2 cornerbacks that they actually drafted. They only talked to 1 first-round cornerback, and that was, in fact, no first-round cornerbacks. I apologize. They did not talk to a first-round cornerback. The cornerbacks were all day 3 picks. They talked to 7 cornerbacks, all day 3 picks, anywhere day 3 to undrafted free agent. They didn't think Trent McDuffie was going to be there, and they end up drafting in the 4th and 7th round of cornerbacks. Again, if Trent McDuffie wasn't there, do they trade up and take a cornerback, or is Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, are those the 2 cornerbacks they selected? Because 7 cornerbacks they brought in were all day 3, and they took 2 of the 3 in day 3. The safeties were day 2 and then undrafted or late. Day 2, they took a safety in Brian Cook. And the other safety they took was a 7th rounder. That was the range they were looking at. The other group that was packed with players, the wide receiver group, they had 7 players in. So you're talking about 17 of the 24 were wide receiver, cornerback, and safety. And in the 2nd round, they took Sky Moore. The wide receivers ranged from 1st round in Jamison Williams to 2nd round Christian Watson, John Mechie, and George Pickens. That was the bulk of the 7 were 2nd rounders. 4th rounder, 7th rounder, undrafted free agent, etc. They took Sky Moore in the 2nd round. Some of these can be smoke screens, right? Some of them can be, well, it's not a direct correlation because they brought 0 defensive ends last year. Right. They brought 0 defensive ends into Kansas City last year to visit with them. But when we talked with Jeff Brom, head coach of Purdue, after they drafted George Karlaftis, he said the Chiefs had the most extensive research and conversations with us about George Karlaftis than any other team. Yet they didn't have a visit with him, but they did the most work on George Karlaftis than any other team, according to Jeff Brom. And they took visits to West Lafayette to meet with coaches about specifically George Karlaftis, but they didn't bring him in.
Right.
They never brought him in. So that's not necessarily a correlation. They did a lot of work on Karlaftis that we didn't know about until after the draft. But what I found the last couple of years is I do find the correlation between the position and sort of range of what they're looking at while they're creating their draft board. The other sort of takeaway, Josh, is I think there's a part of understanding the draft board, understanding where people will go and where people will be drafted at and the value you can get. And I think that's a big part of being good at drafting is knowing where certain guys will go. And the last couple of years' visits seem to be that the Chiefs have a decent pulse with the people they're bringing in and where they end up being drafted, and then the position they end up drafting right around that time of where they're going, which is probably part of them being pretty good at drafting, is having a pretty good idea of the board and what other teams are looking at as well.
And I think the baseline for these in-person visits, these top 30 visits where the guys come to them, they are information gathering missions, right? And maybe sometimes there was even a mention from Dan Brugler about like you might be asking a guy about his teammate while he's here, and that's really the guy that you're kind of getting the real info on. With Karlaftis, to your point, they did all that work on him to the point where they said, I'm paraphrasing a fake conversation, where they essentially showed their belief to be, oh, we don't need to bring him in here and put a spotlight on the fact that we like this guy. We are totally comfortable with him based on our conversations with everyone around him. So we have no character concerns or production concerns, whatever. There's nothing that he can say to us that will make us higher on him or that we even would need to be higher on him because we think we're going to be able to get him there at the end of the first. and being able to be able to bring in the position group, right? Because that's kind of the thing that you're finding, right? Is they really are looking at the group and the range and the value. Every one of those meetings could take a guy off their board, could move him up, could move him down. But what I think it's shown from what you found is it's not every guy that they love. Just as often as you have a guy come in that shoots up your board, you have a guy who comes in and you go, all right, well, some of our worries may have been reinforced here, just as much as our optimism may have been reinforced here. But you're finding, again, the range and the value and the position group, because everybody knows the Chiefs love drafting corners, mostly later, but they broke that trend with McDuffie last year. Everyone knows they need edge help. Everyone knows that they need another long-term wide receiver option that can be in this roster for a long time. But being able to figure out who it is exactly that they love, it goes back to me as to why the Flowers and Johnston with Mahomes thing is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because that one is under a spotlight. And I don't think the Chiefs or any NFL team wants a spotlight on the guy they love. But I also don't know if you send them to Mahomes for only the reason of hey, look at this shiny thing over here. We love Jalen Hyatt. Like, don't tell anyone.
That's right.
Or maybe we want Addison to keep falling, or whatever it may be. But I think it's really interesting that even in this game, this chess match of smoke screens and information gathering and scouting and defensiveness and trying to keep the rest of the NFL in the dark, somewhere in there, I think the truth kind of rises up to the surface. Even if it's not these dudes, these names, it has been these position groups, these ranges.
And just in keeping track, I mean, there were 26 that they talked to in 2021. They have 2 of those guys on their team. They drafted Nick Bolton and they traded for Kadarius Toney. In 2022, they had 24 players that they talked to, reported. They have 4 of those guys on their team. They drafted Jalen Watson and Josh Williams, Nasir Green that they brought in as a safety, undrafted free agent, and Chris Oladukan.
Oladipoon.
I
had to stop and think about it. That silence was me saying it in my head, and then boom.
Oladipoon. Yeah, I think I got it right the first time. We'll go with mine.
QB4
quarterback.
Right now, I guess?
He was a 7th round draft pick, and then the Chiefs claimed him. He's on their practice squad now. But he was literally the only quarterback they brought in 2022 is now on their practice squad, and he was expected to be a day 3. He went in the 7th round. So there is some sort of connection to a degree, but that's very rare, as we're seeing. That's 50 players that they have brought in and visited with, and they have 6 of those players on their roster right now. So it's
better than random by 32 NFL teams, right? Like it is better than random.
Yeah,
just not a lot.
It's more position correlation than it is actual player name correlation. And if we're wondering how that relates to this year, they have talked with 4 wide receivers, 3 of them in the 2 of them in the first round, 2 of them expected first rounder, 1 expected second rounder, 1 expected day 3. So you've got day 1, day 2, day 3 wide receivers. They have talked to 4 offensive tackles and 2 guards, anywhere from day 1 to undrafted free agent. And they have talked to 7 defensive linemen, anywhere from first round to undrafted free agent, all across the board. That's 6 offensive linemen, 7 defensive linemen, and 4 wide receivers out of the 21 that they have been reported. That's 17 of the 21 reported visits are wide receiver, offensive line, and defensive line. I'll tell you what, if they don't draft one of those positions, it would be the ultimate smokescreen. And again,
Tell you what,
it's across the board, except for wide receiver, it's day 1, day 2. It's more of the higher end wide receivers. Offensive line across the board. Defensive end, by the way, the 3 defensive ends, only day 3. They have yet to talk to a first, second, or third round viewed sort of player. And that's with the reported. There might be a player out there that wasn't reported that actually met with the Chiefs that I haven't seen. And people can let me know that if that's the case. But just in that quick glance, it is stacked with wide receiver, offensive line, and defensive line, which is really surprising because that doesn't seem to be at all the positions that everybody is talking about with mock drafts and simulators as to who they're drafting. It would be incredibly shocking if the positional visits didn't then match up in some way with the positional draft picks for the Chiefs this year.
It's finally time. They haven't done it yet. It's finally time for a first-round linebacker.
Why not?
There you go.
Who says no?
2 seconds and a third over the last 3 years. They're moving on up. First round linebacker at 31. Here we go.
That's the first round quarterback. Lock it up.
I might take a sick day on Friday if that happens.
Warzone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
The draft is almost here, and if you're looking to enhance your experience, Tickets for Less can help. There's a lot of fun stuff going on around Kansas City. The New Heights podcast will be live on Wednesday night at the Music Hall, and the Kelsey Jam Music Festival kicks off Friday night at Azura Amphitheater. Ticketsforless.com is your source for the best selection of tickets with no fees. Plus, save big when you enter promo code 810 at Tickets for Less. That's promo code 810. Take advantage of big savings around the draft and get your tickets now with code 810 at ticketsforless.com.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is the official broadcast partner of the NFL Draft.
It's way too in-depth. There's way too much going on here, and once you start doing like one or two things and going down a rabbit hole, you want to add to it and add to it and add to it, and then it just becomes like paralysis by just numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. That's what I'm saying, Josh. That's what I'm saying.
Once you get percentages out
It's
here
absurd,
and you're
man.
doing cross-references, I was
Yeah.
going to tell you earlier, I
Ugh.
did the math at like 12% of those 50 you had talked about
Right.
ended up on the Chiefs because I think it was 50 divided by 6.
Carry the one
I forgot to carry the 1, and then I moved the 1 back again, and
to the second or third power. Jeez, I always get that confused.
I can't
always-
remember how many. Yeah,
It's always these mundane details.
I remember how to draw the square root symbol, but
yeah.
I don't know what to do with it after that. I don't think you can. I don't think you can square an odd number. That's right?
Mainly prime numbers is what we're dealing with here when it comes
15.
to
There's no square for that.
prime positions for the Chiefs. We'll talk with Matt Lane about the NFL draft and the Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network, KCSN.substack.com. The stupid numbers that we were talking about, that I was joking about as we came back, because in the break I decided to go, you know what? There's such a higher percentage in the last 2 years of the specific positions to what they ended up drafting. What if I combined those 2 years? So
We are another Inception level deep
Yeah.
here.
So if you're looking at the percentage of the positions that were the highest populated over the last 2 years, and it makes up just 3 different positions. Over the last 2 years, those positions made up 62% of all the visits. And those positions in the draft ended up being 62.5% of the draft picks. Interesting.
Hello.
But again, there's way too much going on. Way too much going on, and I probably find a way to add to that and look up something else, and it's just, it's ridiculous. The rabbit holes and then not wanting to stop, and it's one of my issues. It's like, the bit that goes on and on. It's the Excel spreadsheet that we just, that I keep just sort of adding to and
getting
adding
more
to.
columns.
Yes. And what if I looked at it from right-handed versus left-handed?
Well, what would I have to imagine? You have to adjust, of course, for the natural leanings towards most people being right-handed, and then I don't know how the Chiefs view any of that. Obviously, there's only one left-handed quarterback starting in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors.
That makes that would be the biggest. What, shoe size, things like that.
At my at the old newspaper office in college, we eventually just started using. We had a big window, kind of like these.
Was that your room?
More
Not
or
high
less.
school.
No,
Not-
in college.
okay,
In college,
college,
it was a sort of real college. We just eventually started writing on the window. So I think we had to just get you a little erasable marker,
be
and we can
great.
start just doing the charting on here. We have video back again.
Love that.
We could pan the video cameras over, and we can be drawing up plays. You can be
Yeah.
doing some spreadsheet sort of stuff. We're doing some math.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
I bet the program would love it. They'd come in and they just look up and see formulas on the board, and then like some play that involves
Yeah.
like 25 players. That doesn't seem legal.
Right, but if you can work it out,
Then you get the treasure. It's also a treasure map. I forgot to tell you, it's also
like
a treasure
the
map.
perfect mind, Jeff, of all
Yes.
the numbers
Yes,
just
this
floating
is-
around here.
I will be the Zach Galifianakis of this studio if I could just get. We definitely have erasable markers. We're dangerously close to pulling this off.
I see it more like the trope of the serial killer with all the photographs and the strings stretched
yeah,
from
that's
one wall
probably
to
what it
another.
is. Yeah, that's probably what it is. We're tracking all of the things that are connected, all the different evidence that we have. Who's the ringleader? What's the org chart of this particular organization that is run?
Your syndicate?
It's a syndicate. What's the org chart here? Who is the? You know what they say? Follow the drugs, you get drug dealers. Follow the money, you never know where that's going to go.
I don't know what it says about Drake that I was like, what if we had some fun, we did some math, we drew up some plays, and Drake's like, you know what, that reminds me of serial killers. Kind of suspicious, Drake.
Maybe what he's saying is the level of dork
Well,
that
yeah.
we have with sports stuff.
We could use the windows to the balcony too.
That's exactly. Now
We
we've
have
got
so
even
much
more.
real estate. We can use the window between us and Drake.
So much room for activity.
I could draw a mustache on him.
But what happens when he moves?
I'll draw another one.
It's a huge mustache.
Just a wall of mustaches. So every angle, Drake's had a mustache.
And it's easy enough just to take off, as opposed to Bobby Witt's that apparently will not come off.
What's the logic behind that? I don't know that I heard that.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't.
Oh, you just don't like it?
I just think it's.
I think it's hugely important to his branding and aesthetic and everything right now.
I hate it.
He can't be the leader
hate
of
it.
this team with no mustache.
hate
It
it so-
ages him by like 15
Hey,
years.
Look, more power to you. You know, you whatever makes you comfortable.
Bobby Whiskers.
He's shaved a few off his batting average. Maybe work on that face.
Kansas City's official home of the NFL Draft. Sports Radio 8.
with Matt Lane. Coming up here in just a little bit. But a little bit of transfer, some Mizzou news, and that is that Caleb Grill from Iowa State has committed to Mizzou. He's the one that ended up leaving the team later in the season or getting kicked off the team.
Oh, that's right. Did we ever find out anything else about that?
I don't know.
Boy, I completely forgot about that part of it. It was very strange.
Yeah, don't know what took place there. A guy who's a 37% three-point shooter 4 years, in college, 3 at Iowa State, 1 at UNLV. Wichita, Kansas native, Caleb Grill. So a guard, shooting guard. So I did not see what the issue was with Caleb Grill, but there is some news with Mizzou and the transfer portal. So 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll talk with Matt Lane here in a second when we get him on the line. 913-912-4810. And then also we'll hear from Brett Veach coming up at noon and play a little sports or leisure at 1 o'clock. So there you go. There's some non-football Chiefs news, and maybe other people have the information out there as to what took place. I'm not really sure. So
I haven't seen much of it. It was just one of the weirder statements also.
Yeah.
It was sort of apologetic and sad, but not – we never really got much in terms of specificity.
Yep.
But he had it pretty much narrowed down to Mizzou in West Virginia, it seems, and he lands with Mizzou.
Tex says, with a great mustache comes great responsibility.
Thank you,
That's true.
Texter.
And that's why Bobby Witt has stepped up and answered questions the last 2 nights.
If he doesn't
2
have a
games.
mustache, I don't think that you can put him out there and
No.
make him be the face of your franchise.
You're-
When that
you're-
face has a mustache.
You're ducking the media without the mustache. With the mustache, you know that's going to give you the shield.
It's authoritative.
That's exactly right. Don't question him. We question Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com, KC Laboratory Podcast. Not question in terms of disagreement, but question because we want the information. Matt Lane joins us here. Matt, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I mean, you can question me if you want to.
No.
You don't have to call me onto your show and just start questioning me right off the get-go. You got to warm me up first.
Yes. Where were you on the night of April 18th, 2022?
Oh man, that's so long ago. I
I know.
would fail the draft interview right now. Like I don't have an answer ready. Like I would
Yeah.
fail this real
Well,
bad right now.
We've got video surveillance of you at this corner store here. Is that you that put that candy bar in your pocket?
To quote the notorious Shaggy, it wasn't me.
That's great. But they caught you on the counter.
Wasn't me.
Saw you eating the candy bar on the sofa. You even ate it in the shower.
We did the whole interview just like this.
Yeah.
It was great.
They caught you on camera.
Wasn't me.
They saw the chocolate on your shoulder.
Wasn't me.
Heard the words that you told Mr. Goodbar.
Wasn't me. Oh, man.
Heard the
You're killing
chewing.
it. This is great.
Heard the chewing getting louder.
Wasn't me.
They stayed until it was over. All right, so that's one of the worst that we've done, Matt. But I appreciate you being.
This is the top tier.
Thank you for being along for the ride with us on that. That was great. We're in a good mood. It's a week away from the NFL draft being here and things starting to line up. And Brett Veach talking an hour from now. How you feeling as 7 days away from the Chiefs drafting? We assume in the first round, and then some more drafts the rest of the way.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm a big draft fan. I was kind of before we got to do some of our stuff here with KCSNs. I've always been a big draft guy, and it's just kind of the area of talking about football that I'm the most drawn towards. Love the Chiefs, love to talk about the Chiefs, but I really do enjoy the draft. I enjoy the whole process of it. So now that we're a week away, getting to talk about the draft for my favorite team, and then it happens to be in Kansas City, where I grew up, where I'm from, and I get to come back for it and just be in town for that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm super excited. The Chiefs are, world champions. They're coming off of it. They're picking at the end of the first round. Everything is going well from a football perspective right now.
So, do you take part in all the mock draft simulators and different things to maybe give you an idea of what players might be around there based on percentages of big boards and mock drafts and things that are out there? Do you take part in find yourself maybe like me and just staring at it and clicking redraft and redraft and redraft? Do you have that problem like I do?
Yeah, I definitely spend a lot more time than I should on the simulators. I've gotten better, though, because there's so many of them. Like when I was younger, like a decade ago, there wasn't very good mock draft simulators. You really had to work to find them. And then kind of when they happened, they were all over the place, not accurate. You had like 1 or 2 options. So it wasn't as fun and as well thought out. So, yeah, a lot of redrafts. And now I got a little older, and I understand what I'm looking at with them and try not to manipulate them just to get what I want, right? And so I kind of go into them with a general idea, like, okay, for this mock draft, what if the Chiefs do X, Y, and Z in free agency or before the draft, and this is what they're thinking. And then I try to make a mock draft with a plan that I preset in my mind. I think that just makes it a little bit more fun. That way I'm not just taking the 13th overall player who for some reason fell to pick 95 or 96 just because.
Yeah, no, that's it's interesting. I've tried to trade down, trade up, kind of get an idea of where like some of these players might go in the draft and things like that. Matt Lane is our guest. Do you connect? I spent way too much time looking at the last 2 years pre-draft visits and then what that resulted in terms of draft picks. And then range of rounds drafted for the players that they brought in that they were eventually drafted at to see if there was a connection. I did come away sort of feeling like there was in terms of positions and rounds and areas the positions would be drafted by the players they brought in. The specific names didn't really match up except for 3 over the last 2 years. Nick Bolton, Jalen Watson, and Josh Williams are the only ones that they brought in, or Zoom in 2021 with Nick Bolton. That was it. But the correlation between the bulk of the pre-draft visit positions and then who they ended up taking, last year they had 7 wide receivers, 7 cornerbacks, and 3 safeties. And so they had 10 cornerbacks 10 defensive backs that they brought in. And they drafted cornerback, safety. They had 7 wide receivers that they brought in that were ranging from first round to like day 3. But 4 of those 7 were second-round draft pick wide receivers, and they took a wide receiver in the second round. And it's sort of the same thing for 2021. Offensive line, they had 4 different offensive linemen come in. Well, 2 of their 6 picks were offensive linemen. They had 6 linebackers come in and visit, or Zoom press conference or whatever visit. And Nick Bolton was a second-round linebacker that they took. So am I digging too deep in this because I kind of get maybe I'm bored with all the other things we're talking about with the draft, and I don't want to get bored with all of that? But do you find is there any connection in your mind of maybe the pre-draft visits that the Chiefs go through and maybe what actually happens in the draft?
So it's all team dependent, right? I think there was a long stretch there, I want to say almost like 15 years, where the Dallas Cowboys in particular, every single first-round pick, they brought in for a visit at some point in time. They met with at the Combine, then they brought in for a visit, and everybody kind of knew the pick. And it was like 15 years the Cowboys were right on the money following this trend. Some teams just bring in guys they have questions about. So whether they like them, they don't like them, they're just like, hey, we have questions about this guy's character or this guy's injury history that we want answers to that we're not getting or that we don't already have. We'll bring them in. Sometimes those guys aren't someone they want to draft. Sometimes they are. They just want to be prepared. So it's hard to answer. I agree with kind of your assessment there that it looks like the Chiefs over the past couple of years are having a lot of visits with positions they are highly interested in drafting. Whether I don't know as much about the round ranges mattering too much. That might just be a little bit more coincidental just based on you're going to do a little bit more work on a guy that's going to go in the second round if you have questions than more work on a guy that might go in the 6th round if you have questions about him. You're a little bit more okay playing fast and loose with that 6th round pick most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know about the rounds, but in terms of the positions, I do think there's maybe something there to kind of lean into. The hard part for me is where do we draw the line, right? The top 30 visits, there's this strong correlation. Does that extend to official Combine visits?
Yeah,
so when the Chiefs are out there at the Combine visiting with, it was still a bunch of offensive linemen again, but then also a few more receivers and a few more defensive linemen. Like, should that be added to our top 30 visits?
That's a good point, yeah.
How that lines up?
No, because that's
Should
too
it
much
not?
work to go back and redo that. So no.
Right. No, I understand. It's like, I just don't know. I don't have a great read on it yet. I think we're trending in the direction that the Chiefs are, at the very least, tipping positions they are mildly interested in based on who they have come in, and that's fine. Like, that's not something you worry about as a fan. As a fan, it's awesome because now you start to get a general idea, if that's true, of where they might be going.
And I pointed out in the previous hour too that last year they did not bring a defensive end in for a visit, yet we talked with Jeff Brom on the air the day after the first round last year, and he said the Chiefs were the team that did the most extensive research and interviews and conversations about George Karlaftis than any other team. They went to West Lafayette multiple times. They had phone conversations. They met with doctors. That the Chiefs were the most thorough in talking about Karlaftis with Purdue, yet they didn't bring him in for an official visit. So, there's also that part of it, that, they didn't visit with him, but they were clearly interested in Karlaftis.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of kind of rumors and stuff that I don't know how, I guess, ended up public it being, but the Chiefs were pretty interested in George Karlaftis.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of knew that, and then we found out after the draft they had done all this work. But yeah, they might not have brought him in for a visit. And I think even seeing this trend that we're seeing, I think the biggest thing to note for the Chiefs and their visits, it is usually on guys that they have some kind of question about, right?
Yeah.
If you even go back and look at some of those names, it's a lot of guys that did have, I don't want to say red flags, just potentials of red flags in terms of on-field or off-field character, injuries, stuff like that. And they might come in and pass it, and then that's completely A-okay, or they might come in and not. So if George Karlaftis, if they have no questions over his football character, his off-field character, and his health history, then they might not bring him in, even though they're super interested in him. It's like that's just kind of the whole guessing game, I guess, that we're getting at here.
Yeah, and in 21 and 22, there were 50 that they reportedly met with in one of those official visits. They have 6 of those players on their roster right now. So it ain't exactly a name direct correlation. Kadarius Toney, Nick Bolton, and then they have Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, Nasir Greer, and then Chris Oladokin. Olaf? Not sure.
Yep.
Quarterback, 7th rounder. He's on their practice squad as well. So I bring this up because the conversation that took place yesterday, which then sparked my interest of is there a correlation between visits and drafts and positions? Zay Flowers sent down to Texas at the request of the Chiefs. So it wasn't just Zay Flowers going, hey, Patrick, are you available? Can I come and work out with you? That'd be awesome. The Chiefs called him, talked to him, his agent, and said, hey, I know his pre-draft visits are over. He thought he was done on Tuesday after visiting the Titans. Can you go down there and work out with Patrick Mahomes? What's your reaction to hearing and seeing Zay Flowers working with Patrick Mahomes at the request of the Chiefs?
So my first thought is just my gut reaction was, that's interesting for the team to ask a player if he would go down there to work out with Mahomes. And right now, we're still in this gray area of if it technically counts as a top 30 visit or not. It can go either way, I guess. It depends on if the Chiefs facilitated everything, paid for it, and stuff like that. Even though they're not there, it would still count as a top 30 visit. If they just said, hey, do you want to do it, and him or his agent paid for everything and did it all on their own time, it technically doesn't have to count. I do believe that you would see a rule come out very fast, by next year, saying you can't do stuff like that if that's the case. So I imagine it counts as a top 30 visit. So either way, just interesting. I haven't really publicly seen or heard anything like that. I have heard from some people, agents and stuff like that it's not completely uncommon for a draft prospect, specifically a wide receiver or a tight end, to, when they're on a top 30 visit, also work out with the quarterback or work out with, team members that are in the area. But it just still usually happens at the team facility, not usually in a different state. So, that's the unique part of it, is how the Chiefs went about it. Definitely interesting the whole way. And then it was the day after we saw the pictures. There was no announcement, no declaration, but we saw the pictures that Quentin Johnston had been working out there. Granted, it was his home team, at TCU Stadium, so it kind of makes more sense. But it was still the day after we saw those pictures. So it's just interesting to follow.
If you had to, Matt Lane's our guest, if you had to choose between those two, Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston's on the board at number 31, who are you taking if you're Brett Veach?
I'm asking Pat who he likes throwing the ball better to. Right? No.
Makes sense.
It's hard. So Quentin Johnston, to me, was kind of my top wide receiver for a while. That changed down the stretch to Jordan Addison, actually, out of USC. But Quentin Johnston was my top guy because I like the potential. Out of all the wide receivers, the best blend of just movement on the field and then size, right? So if it worked out, he's going to be the best. I think just enough questions have crept up into my mind that kind of thinks he's a little bit riskier than a lot of the other wide receivers, obviously. And Zay Flowers, to me, seems a lot safer. He's a guy that's kind of proven, while being the only guy, he's more reliable and consistent. So, I really could go either direction with that. This current state of the Chiefs team, I think they need that consistency more so than they need the big splash. They need somebody they can rely on. So I'd probably lean Flowers just for the Chiefs' makeup right now. But, I mean, I would absolutely love either one of them.
Is it just because I'm scarred that when I talk about Quentin Johnston and the more I look at him, I become more and more concerned, the drop rate, the sort of body catcher, things like that I just get the real feels of Jonathan Baldwin. Not saying he's going to end up that, but it might just be from PTSD of that pick and how good he was going to be and early on in training camp, and this guy is going to be one of the best receivers, and it just never really worked out in some of those issues there. I just the catch rate and actually using his body a lot more, those things just sort of scare me and give me the vibes of Jonathan Baldwin.
Yeah, and I get it. And whether it's a Baldwin, some people have used like Kevin White. I mean, he had a bunch of injuries.
Yeah,
and
to
was
the Bears.
A lot older. And was a lot older of a prospect, but still, like, same general concept, right? So I get concerns with him. That's why, like, if somebody wants to tell me that Quentin Johnston's not their top wide receiver, or he's their wide receiver 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But each guy's a little different. The biggest thing that draws me to Quentin Johnston is people see the height, right? They see the 6'3", the 210-plus pounds, and you're assuming that you're getting a big wide receiver. You're getting a Mike Williams catch point winner, a T. Higgins type receiver, and that's just not who he is.
Yep.
And I think people knock him a little bit too much for not being that without crediting him for moving like a 6-foot, 190-pound wide receiver despite being bigger. So, like, it's just about the perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I get the concerns with him. And the John Baldwin thing, like, for Chiefs fans specifically, is definitely going to be a big fear. But when I watch him move on the football field, he just moves in the way I think an NFL player moves. It's not just all linear explosiveness. He has this wiggle, and he kind of glides as he runs. He slides around the field really well. Like, I think that movement skill will translate, but I get the concerns.
Yeah, so you could hope that maybe can you coach Quentin Johnston up to be closer to Jordan Addison, where Jordan Addison, you can't coach him up to be 6'1", 215.
Right, yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's
6'3",
exactly
excuse me, 6'3", 215.
Yeah, 6'3". Yeah, because Quentin Johnston at TCU, so Gary Patterson was his coach, as a freshman and as a sophomore, and that program was kind of spinning in mud, especially on the offensive side, but both sides. So I don't want to say that coaching was bad, but you just have to wonder what the coaching like was there for the offensive side of the ball under a coaching staff that had really been trending downhill. They get a new coaching staff that comes in this past year with Sonny Dykes, and all of a sudden, not only does the offense explode, Quentin Johnston's production explodes, and all of a sudden those small flashes we saw in the past are now happening every week, every other week, and stuff like that. So you already see an upward trend. You're kind of relying on your coaching staff with him. But going back to your point, you watch him. Hey, here's a big guy. Had a 7.31 3-cone, like one of the worst 3-cones you're going to see for a wide receiver. And, yeah, DK Metcalf kind of turned that on its head. But when we're just saying that you running one of the worst 3-cones ever for a wide receiver, you get some concerns in there if he will translate to a good route runner and a consistent player at the NFL level.
Matt Lane is our guest. How good is this draft to you, maybe compared to some of the other drafts that you guys have put together, the draft guide and things like that? You have at the draft guide 14 first-round grades for the players. Is that right around where typically it is, and how do you think this draft compares to some of the others?
I think that's normally around where we are. I think probably a little bit on the low end. The COVID year draft might have been that low because a lot of guys did decide to come back after the shortened year.
I
can't remember for sure. It's like that one, and I remember that one was a little bit lighter and on total players and just how good they were. But overall, this draft class just seems okay. It seems fine. For me, the top, you don't have that many first-round grades. It's not the best top 10, but the players that you're seeing roughly in your top 32 or the top 31 in your mock drafts and stuff, I think there's a pretty big cliff after your top 30, say top 35. I don't love the depth, so I don't know if there's great value on the day 2, day 3, or early day 3, and then through all day 2 of this draft. I think it's kind of top-heavy and then not that deep. But the top heavy is an elite talent. Like it's just not the greatest draft overall. And I'm kind of skirting around it here. It's not the best draft class. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of teams try to move out of picks this year and see if they can't pick up future picks just for that reason. It just seems like a little bit of a down class.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing right, you would probably be more in favor of trading up than trading back out of the first round. If you feel like, there's less of that maybe depth in the second and third round, would you, which would you prefer if a trade is made, trade up or trade down?
Yeah, I think trade up. So I think really what it ends up playing out to is I have about 26 players that I would really like, this person would really like to see the Chiefs take in the first round. Like, obviously, some of them won't happen. Some of them have a chance to. So when there's about 26 guys of that, I would much rather get into that group than get faced with getting left with one of those, 5, 6 guys that I have just after that, because to me, those 5 or 6 guys are in the same pool as maybe the next 50. Like, I think the second group for me is a lot bigger, but there's a pretty big gap between the two. So, yeah, I think trading up, and, when I've thought about it, trade up teams like Seattle at 20 likes to trade down a lot. Baltimore, I think, only has 5 picks this year, and they've, in the past, been a big trade down team, so they're at 22. And then the Jaguars or the Giants, there's just a couple teams there in the 20s to mid-20s that I think you would target as kind of a move-up candidate.
Yeah, so if I'm getting a wide receiver, and maybe it was just because of Zay Flowers, in the trade-up that and a lot of the simulations that I've seen, like Zay Flowers isn't really going past 21, 22. So I've used it as, okay, if the Chiefs really want the wide receiver that they are coveting and they don't want to take a chance at 21, 22, 23, that guy is gone, that it's not we'll take the remainder of Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, or Quentin Johnston. Let's say Zay Flowers, and then there's a gap for them, with other guys. And they say, okay, let's get up to Zay Flowers. 20 is the spot that I've kind of looked at and said, would be a place that maybe Seattle would be trading back and getting extra picks because they're doing that right now. In order for the simulator to allow me to trade up to 20, I gave up a first, a third, and a fourth, and I got a fifth back for Zay Flowers. Are you okay if the Chiefs were to do that, give up the first, the third, and the fourth, so they would essentially have the first, the second, and then they would have an extra fifth rounder thrown in there, but they have Zay Flowers, and then you still have that pick number 63. I came back and got Jalen Duncan, offensive tackle, at pick number 63. So are you good with if it takes first, third, fourth, and to get a fifth back to move up to 20 to get whoever they think is that force multiplier, that star player?
Right. Yeah. I think that trade in particular, I'm okay with that. That better value for the Chiefs than what they traded last year to get up to Trent McDuffie, I believe, because they were 29th and then moving up to 21, right?
Yeah, yep.
And they took a 1, 3, and 4 to do it. So it's about the same, right? So you're looking at about, I guess, the same value roughly of doing that trade. And I thought that was fine. So if that's what you're looking at for the Chiefs, I'm completely okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally I said Jordan Addison's kind of my top wide receiver right now.
I love Jordan Addison.
All 4 wide receivers, all 4, I have them stacked on top of each other. Like if I were to list out my big board, just 1 to however many numbers there are, like the wide receivers, all 4 of them would probably be in the same 6 spots that close to each other. So I don't know if they were all on the board at 20. I don't know if I would trade up that far. If you're in the Chiefs' shoes and you have one guy that's substantially better than the rest, and that's what's left, I think that deal's completely fine. And I mean, honestly, if that's what you see, if you're the Chiefs, the way I feel about the rest of the wide receiver group, once you get past those top 4 guys, absolutely do it. Because I don't trust any of these day 2 wide receivers to come in and immediately take any kind of role in the Chiefs' wide receiver room. It's not the best wide receiver room, but the Chiefs have some depth. So, I don't trust the day 2 pick to come in and automatically be better than Richie James or Justin Watson, even though I don't think those guys are starting level wide receivers, if that makes sense.
The trends of simulators and things like that, it doesn't mean it's going to end up that way. But one of the things that seems to be happening a lot for me is when I don't take offensive tackle in the first round, it seems like, Jalen Duncan is there a lot. It doesn't mean he's going to be there, but it's just a name that keeps coming up. And so many of my mock drafts, I'm like, well, I ended up with Jalen Duncan at 63. Well, I traded back to 70 and still got Jalen Duncan at pick number 70. It's just interesting that that's a name that keeps coming up. And I don't know if that's because, the simulations don't see him going really in the second round, or some of the deficiencies that are there are too glaring, but the upside is a lot for him. I don't know, just a random name that keeps coming up for my mock drafts. Is there a guy that your draft crush? I like that in the draft guide you guys have the Matt's guys and the Kent's guys, things like that. You've got 6 players that I looked through. I might have missed one or two, but 6 players that were Matt's guys, ranging from 2nd to 3rd to 4th round picks. Is there a guy that you are crushing on more than another?
Yeah, so I think this year we all had 8 in the guide. It had been 10 in the past. This year we did 8 because we had a few more people. And then I sillily put my guy on a guy that didn't get a write-up because I liked him a lot, but he missed the write-up range.
Okay.
So I'm actually shortchanged on my guy.
Okay.
That guy's Truman Jones, the defensive end out of Harvard, but I won't talk about him here. I wanted to stick to tackle. Nick Saldiveri, tackle out of Old Dominion. Every time I do a mock draft, he's still right now there in the 3rd round. On most of them, he's there in the 4th round, and I think that's probably completely unrealistic. I don't even feel great about him getting to 95 anymore, but it keeps happening, and so I'm going to keep sticking to it. But here's a guy that played right tackle, right guard, left guard, and then a little bit of center at the Senior Bowl. So he can play 4 positions. Technically, I don't see a reason athletically why he couldn't play left tackle in a pinch. So you're getting a offensive lineman that could play all 5 positions, essentially his first year if he needed to step in. But if you just put him at right tackle, adequate arm length, it's over 33 inches, so that's fine for the NFL, good size. Really like his feet. He flashes a lot of different techniques with his hands, so you see some technical nuance there. Yeah, there's some timing issues, some maybe play strength issues that need to be cleaned up, but coming from Old Dominion, I expect stuff like that. So Nick Saldiveri, just an offensive lineman from Old Dominion, at absolute worst, I think he's a future starting guard in the NFL that has utility to kick out and play tackle in a pinch. Think like Joe Thuney. Not as good, obviously, but in a similar mold to Joe Thuney. Or, best case scenario, he's a starting caliber guard that has some athleticism.
Interesting. And you and Zach both have Saldiveri as one of your guys.
Yes.
In the guide, which is great. All right, last one for you. We wake up on Saturday morning next week. The Chiefs have taken, let's just say they stay where they are, and they pick, their 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounders. They don't move up or down. If you're guessing, what positions are drafted for the Chiefs? Not names, just what positions have they gone after?
I think they will have taken a wide receiver, an offensive tackle, and defensive lineman. I don't know. Do I have to bite into on tackle or defensive end on D-line? I think it's a value there, right? They're going to add 2 trench players, 1 on each side of the ball, and then a wide receiver is my guess for the first 2 days of the draft.
Yeah, I keep ending up with Ike Siaki Ike.
Out of Baylor.
I know I'm pronouncing it correctly because that's typically what I do. I've ended up with him a number of times, and a few others, and trying to think of who's the Wisconsin defensive tackle
Keanu Benton.
Yep, that I've ended up with him too. So I'd be fine if it's defensive tackle or something like that. We'll see wide receiver, offensive tackle, and defensive line to some degree in the first 3 picks, according to Matt Lane. We'll see what happens. Matt, you're the man. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the different write-ups there. Everybody go check out if you're looking at wide receivers. He's got the write-up on all the different first-round wide receivers there, the pros, the cons, and things like that, and everything else there that's with the draft guide. Matt, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me on. We got 1 week left till the draft here.
Here we go, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. There's Matt Lane. Great stuff, man. Go check out. If you haven't got the draft guide yet, freaking get the draft guide. It is awesome. It is the resource that I go to the most. And there are other different big boards that are out there. You can compare and contrast and things like that. But the fact that it is more Chiefs specific, because it's how does this person fit with the Chiefs? It's low, medium, high. There's comparable players that are there. And so, yeah, the draft guide is a great resource with that. So just as an idea, you can also, in those simulators, you can trade. And it will accept the trades that they think are reasonable. You can't just trade, hey, the Chiefs are going to trade number 31 for number 20, and they're going to give you next year's 7th. It's not going to happen. But to move up to 20, I had to trade a 1st, a 3rd, and a 4th. I got back a 5th, but gave up, 1st, 3rd, and 4th to move up to 20 to draft Zay Flowers, if that's somebody that they were looking at. just because that was the name, but just an idea of what it may take to move up and get that guy. We'll take a timeout. We'll continue rolling, and we'll continue talking some NFL draft. Brett Veach comes up at noon with the press conference. Sports or Leisure, 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you to Matt Lane, KC Sports Network. Text says 100% chance TCU wide receiver has been with Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs are not releasing video. Yeah, I mean, he was there a few days ago. There's just not video out there like there was of Zay Flowers. But
There are pictures. We have visual evidence.
Yeah, right. And a little bit of that. Now, is that at the Chiefs' request? Is that hey, we've talked with you. Why don't you just stop by? He's there in your backyard. Not literally, but well, maybe. I don't know. But he's working out right there, so why don't you go and hang out with him a little bit. Text says NFLDraftBuzz.com has Zay Flowers as the number 37 overall prospect. That's comical. It just sort of depends. Like Adam Schefter has him as the number, or not Adam Schefter, but Mel Kiper has Zay Flowers as the number 10 overall prospect. He or Todd McShay, one of them, because that was the Adam Schefter tweet about Zay Flowers, the number 10 overall prospect. There's that. Tex says, did the Chiefs want someone else to take Flowers to push their guy that they really want back? Absolutely.
I think it's totally on the table.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Or have somebody trade up in front of them to get Flowers because they really just want Quentin Johnston or whatever.
Absolutely. Or maybe they make another team in front of them trade up to take Zay Flowers because they're worried that the Chiefs will trade up and take Zay Flowers. Right. So now you have just taken a little bit of a resource. Let's say, Buffalo, the Bills fans would really like Zay Flowers. Mm-hmm. And when Adam Schefter put out the tweet yesterday, there were a lot of Bills fans that were like, oh, can't wait for us to pass on him and him to end up in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So if the Bills are in love with Zay Flowers working out with Patrick Mahomes, maybe the Bills now go, well, we got to give up that third to go get him because Kansas City might trade up at any moment. So we got to go get him right now. And the Chiefs might have been like, cool. Yeah, no, we weren't going to trade up. So it's all good in the hood. It's all good where we're at. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We will hear from Brett Veach coming up at noon. Press conference as the pre-draft press conference for the Chiefs. We'll hear what his thoughts are on some of the free agent signings and other questions that will be there about visits, et cetera, for the Chiefs general manager, Brett Veach. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour, hear from Brett Veach coming up at noon.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Golf fans, it's time to get ready for the season. Great Life Golf KC is giving away up to $3,000 in free golf. All you need to do is go to 810WHB.com to find the landing page and scan for your chance to win 8 weekly drawings now through April 16th. Each week, someone will win a great prize, including foursomes to one of their classic or premier golf courses, $100 gift cards, or tailor-made putters. The grand prize is a 3-day, 2-night stay and play package for 4 at Osage National. So sign up today and win some great prizes from Great Life Golf KC.
Hello, Kansas City. Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing here. Do you have your furnace inspected each year? Probably so. Do you have your roof looked at every year? No? Call us today for a free roof checkup. If we find an issue, we will write you a proposal right there on the spot. If your roof is all good, we'll leave you with the peace of mind knowing the best roofing professionals in Kansas City said you're all set. Inspections are always free and suggestions are built on integrity. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Are you dreaming of a brand new modern apartment home with amazing views and natural light? Stop dreaming and come see the reality of Reverb Apartments. Located in the thriving Crossroads Art District at 18th and Walnut, Reverb is walking distance to all your favorite restaurants and entertainment. Reverb features floor-to-ceiling panoramic windows which provide residents with breathtaking city views. Come by and check out Reverb's modern design and technology. Visit Reverb today at 1800 Walnut in the Crossroads District or online at reverbkc.com. Reverb, everyday inspired.
At Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC, being number one is not about them. It's all about the customers. You receive a 90-day money-back guarantee on new Buicks and GMCs, an incredible selection of over 200 vehicles, and the best prices, too, with exclusive discounts. Visit robertbrogdon.com.
Football is back in Kansas City in the heart of America. Get in here to Red Door Grill to celebrate and get excited about some football.
I would continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. Let's hear from Peter Vermees here as news out of sporting, and that Willie Agada is going to be out for an extended period of time with a stress fracture in his tibia, will require surgery. So that was the injury report that came out last night with leg, and that will require surgery. He will be out for an extended period of time, so the hits keep coming for Sporting. And on trial was Dom Dwyer. Makes a little more sense as to him working out as a trialist. But here's Peter Vermees on that news.
He has a stress fracture in his tibia, which nobody knew anything about it. Just happened on the other day, and he'll probably be out. You know, I probably best if I don't even make an estimation until the doctors. But he's actually going to have to get surgery.
And that's rough. It's rough for a team that's already struggling to score. And you take somebody off the pitch like that, and maybe adding a 32-year-old Dom Dwyer, who has 4 goals in the last 2.5 years or so. I mean, had a lot for Sporting back in 2012 to 2017, but I mean, the Royals ain't bringing in Lorenzo Cain to play center field because they have an issue there, you know. Although I would be perfectly fine with that.
Telling you, man, retire a Royal after about 50 games. That might be where Dwyer's headed.
But, man, we play the clip of the Royals with the Forgetting Sarah Marshall and the Dracula musical. It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better. And with Sporting, sort of the same thing. That this is a tough blow. It's like one thing to go, it's early in the season. They can start to get things, they can turn some things around, get some health. Well, you can go ahead and take out the from that because it's the, hell, something else happening with Sporting. So a little bit of a bombshell there with Agata now. Out for a while to the point that Peter Vermees was like, I don't even want to put a timetable on it. Yeah. Like, I'm not even going to start down the road of a timetable. He's having surgery on his leg for a stress fracture.
It's something we talked about on Sound Off on Sunday, believe it or not, where Aaron asked us all who was making you the most sad between the Royals and Sporting in the Current. And I said I had faith in the Current, being able to bring confidence back, and they got a win last night, which is nice.
And you talked about how they should fire the manager.
That was not a part of my take at the time. Good point. But the Royals, by just like pure volume, have made us the most sad because you play baseball just about every day. But also, the Royals have decades and generations of roots in this city through, generations in terms of like me to my parents to my grandparents to the depths in which baseball has a foothold in this city. Even when it's been terrible, it's been persistent, and we all still kind of have a spot in our heart for that, even when it's hard to watch. And I worry for Sporting right now. I mean, we're going to have World Cup games here. Soccer in Kansas City is a legitimate thing. I'm not saying it's going to blow away in the wind if Sporting has a couple down years in a row. But in terms of the momentum of sort of more casual fans of becoming just a cultural part of the city, suddenly going from having these legitimate expectations of championship contention and certainly continuing expectations of playoff success to a complete bottoming out this year where you almost literally, not quite, but almost literally could not start worse off, and your only saving grace is a couple of scoreless draws, right? It is a brutally difficult spot for Sporting to be in, where you have the diehards losing faith in Peter Vermees and the casuals forgetting that games are happening because there's just no positive energy around this group at all right now, and this only hurts it more. It just bums me out in a really existential kind of way.
And going back and trying to look at some of the notes that I had on this preseason and seeing where some of the predictions were. There were, it was pretty much across the board of this Sporting team is a playoff team. Like, it's going to be in the playoffs as high as, picked third in the Western Conference, 6th, 4th, 7th, 5th, 4th. Like, it's not this team might be the worst in the MLS.
No.
So maybe everybody was wrong on that. Maybe there's some groupthink that goes along with predictions that take place from different websites and different, analysts and experts along the way. But when you're looking at the roster, and I think some of that is historical success with Peter Vermees, that maybe you get a bump or two along the way. But there's no getting around the disappointment of what the hope of the season could be. And it's not they're going to go and win the cup. It's can they get rolling and heading in the right direction from what was a pretty awful start to the season last year and maybe some pretty good soccer that they played at the end of the season. And does that carry over? And it's like, okay, now they're going to be scoring goals and you get some guys back healthy and, Polito, and we'll see what happens along the way. And it certainly isn't this. And then a guy who helped the team down the stretch last year is now out for an extended period of time. I would just say, if he plays again this year for Sporting, great. sort of like a, cool, you got something, but I'm not counting on him returning
No.
to Sporting this year. So
Seems unlikely.
And I guess they might be counting on Dom Dwyer. So there you go. At least people that have their Dwyer jerseys can go back out there.
See, there you go.
No longer oh, that's cool, man. Oh, I loved Dwyer when he played. I had one too. I got a new one or whatever. You can head back out there and rock that Dwyer.
Silver lining.
See, we are all about silver linings, okay?
They just keep getting narrower and narrower.
It'd be great if it was closer to the Chiefs with the gold linings.
Yeah, the Lombardi Trophy silver.
That's true. It's a lot more than just lined with silver.
Yeah, that's right.
It's made out of that stuff. Well, we'll hear from Brett Veach next.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is the official broadcast partner of the NFL Draft in Kansas City. We'll have a live broadcast from Radio Row, the NFL Experience, Union Station, Arrowhead, Power and Light District, Big Brothers Big Sisters Draft Night event, and from our broadcast headquarters. We'll bring you all the selections live as they happen, interviews with Brett Veach and Andy Reid, and introduce you to the newest Chiefs draft picks. So listen to the NFL Draft with me, Soren Petro, Curtis Siebold, and former Chief Mark Borichter on your home of the NFL Draft in Kansas City. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We're here with Brad McGee from LBA Home Services. I see you're wearing a hard hat.
Yes, I am.
In the shower?
Very perceptive.
So is there a point you're trying to make?
This shower, the water's hot, draining well. So is this acceptable?
Looks okay to me.
Okay is not good enough. Remember, I work at LBA Home Services, and perfect is our minimum standard.
But isn't this shower perfect?
Not even close. This is hard water.
Explains the hard hat.
What's the point of having a nice hot shower if your water's so hard you never get clean?
So what do you...
Install a water softener system that's designed for KC's hard water. Cleaner clothes, less soap needed, pipes and fixtures last longer.
In a word,
perfect. Everyone at LBA thinks this way. Your water is either perfect or it's not, and your family deserves...
perfect.
That's it exactly.
And the hard hat?
You keep it.
One simple idea, one name to remember.
Just remember LBA.
LBAservices.com.
Erectile dysfunction affects many men in America today, but it's not just the man who's affected, it's also often their partners, because ED is a relationship destroyer, but successful treatment of ED can truly bring relationships back to life. This is Jeff, the CEO of Promenic Restorative Men's Health, and that's why I am pleased to announce the opening of Heartland Men's Health right here in Kansas City. As a Promenic Restorative Health affiliate, Heartland Men's Health is part of a group that has successfully treated tens of thousands of men over the last decade with treatments that are shown in medical studies to be effective in as high as 90% of men. And unlike wave therapy groups or online pill sellers, we offer a variety of treatments and even combined protocols to help you get the results you want. You could even find that you're performing like you haven't in years. So call Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult, blood work, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com.
You know Good Sense has the freshest, best-tasting subs in Kansas City, but now they've got an even better loyalty club. Earn 10 points for every dollar spent. Free 8-inch sub on your birthday, 650 bonus points when you sign up. That's enough to get a free 4-inch sub. Exclusive offers, challenges, and more. It's all with the Good Sense Loyalty Club. Find it today at GoodSenseSubs.com and put your order in. Whether it's delivery or to pick up, Good Sense has you covered. GoodSenseSubs.com. Good Sense, locally owned and operated, founded in Lenexa, Kansas.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you need a new roof, it pays to draft the best team in the game. And at Shamrock Roofing and Construction, just one call does it all. Just one call and you're moving the chains down the field with a brand new roof and the best service at the best price from the best hometown team in the business. Just one call does it all to take you from estimate to elated homeowner celebrating a win with a beautiful brand new roof you can be proud of. Call 913-850-6556 or visit shamrockroofer.com today.
I'm McCall with Lee Summit Subaru, and there's a lot of reasons why you should buy from us. How about being Google's highest review rated and locally owned Subaru retailer in Kansas City? And you'll want a Carfax history report, of course, and a comprehensive multi-point inspection. And your first maintenance is free. Best of all, every vehicle comes with a lifetime powertrain warranty. You'll fall in love with driving again at Lee Summit Subaru. Google highest review rated Subaru retailer in Kansas City based on 2022 Google Analytics.
Hi, folks. Bob at Blue Springs Ford. Looking for selection? We have the largest inventory of cars, trucks, and SUVs we've had in over 2 years.
While inventory is way up, which is great, our prices are way down. Our lowest prices of the year.
Inventory is up and prices are down. Right now at Blue Springs Ford.
Plus, get our exclusive free 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty.
Inventory's up.
Prices are down. Come see us today at Blue Springs Ford.
Because if you don't come see us today, we can't save you any money.
Kansas City's official home of the NFL Draft. Sports Radio 810, WHB, Kansas City.
Stephen St. John here for Kansas City Credit Union. Open a kids saving account in 2023 and be entered for a chance to win a new KC Edition Monopoly game. Help kids learn to plan ahead, set goals and priorities for their money, and it provides a place for allowance, birthday money, etc., and they can watch it grow. And it's also an opportunity to learn about different financial terms so they can get more familiar as they get older. And you'll be entered for a chance to win the new Kansas City Edition Monopoly game. So for more information, visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports.
As the weather turns towards spring, now is the time to get your backyard set up for grilling season. Whether it's giving your current setup some new accessories or it's just time to upgrade your grill, come see the guys I see, the Kansas City Barbecue Store in Olathe. They're stocked with all the top brands, and they have the area's biggest selection of accessories. The Kansas City Barbecue Store is your one-stop shop for fuel, sauces, rubs, and even competition quality meats. Find them online right now at thekansascitybbqstore.com. See them in person at the corner of 119th and Strangline in Olathe.
For the 2023 NFL Draft, KC presents an all-day jam session at the Blue Room off 18th and Vine from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on April 27th. Brought to you by Creative City, Kansas City. Supporting Kansas City is the only UNESCO Creative City music in the United States.
Easton Roofing. For free inspections and suggestions built on integrity, call Easton Roofing, 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
The 420 Flower Fest at Relief Resources Dispensary is back. Mark your calendar for Saturday, April 22nd at Relief Resources Dispensary in Grandview. Proceeds help our homeless veterans through the Veterans Community Project. Visit 420flowerfest.com for more details.
Mosquitoes are having a picnic in my backyard, and I'm the main course. I'm calling Mosquito Joe. They'll kill the buzz on that mosquito party. Call Mosquito Joe of Kansas City, 816-897-0502, and mention 810 for a special first treatment offer.
Quick shout out to Google Fiber. Internet so easy to set up and use, you may never need their award-winning customer service at all.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, The Zone, presented by Google Fiber. Award-winning internet without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. Now available up to 5 gigs, but the 1 gig internet, same price since 2012. That is Google Fiber. We'll hear from Brett Veach here very soon, and we will hear what he has to say, the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, as the pre-draft press conference going to start a little bit later than expected. Was expected around noon, but I don't think that's going to be the same as it was a couple of years ago when it was like an hour and a half delayed because of Orlando Brown, because that was
interesting.
Before it happened,
Yeah.
they announced that thing was going to be pushed back.
Yeah, right now, actually, Brett Veach is just in a dark room with some FaceTime with Patrick Mahomes, just getting like the extra scouting report, the real stuff from all the receivers that have been down there with him. He's just finalizing his Mahomes big board. They're just grinding some tape.
I mean, which begs the question, do we need to hear from Brett Veach or Patrick Mahomes in the pre-draft press conference?
It's a great point.
That's the thing. It's like...
how many first-round grades does Pat have on his big board?
Who are the first-round grades that Patrick has talked to you about with pick number 31. How much do you compare your consensus big board with the front office to Patrick's own specific big board? And is there lobbying that goes on with that? Those are the questions that everybody wants answers to. It's the only ones I can think of.
I hope Teicher says, Brett, how are you going to get both Flowers and Johnston in this draft for Mahomes? Because it looked like he was having fun down there.
Yeah, right.
Getting both seems like it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Brett, I mean, this is kind of might be an actual serious question, but as you look at the value, both of them you would like to have, but do you find it to be more important to continue to protect Patrick Mahomes or have high-level weapons out there? If you can't have both, in a perfect world, you have both. You protect them. Chiefs in 2019 had a great offensive line, and they had weapons. They had Tyreek. They had Travis Kelce. They had Damian Williams. They had McCole Hardman. They had weapons, damn it. Sammy Watkins was pretty darn good.
What if we just saw like DeJuan Jones at the TCU facilities, just getting in some kick slides, work on his vertical set,
Going up against FAU.
Just work on his, ooh, okay. Now I like this.
They are down. Patrick Mahomes is taking a snap. He's got Quentin Johnson and Zay Flowers.
It's a battle royale at this point.
Kincaid is at tight end.
This is the way you do
with Kelce.
You get your favorite 25 prospects.
That's right.
And Mahomes is the quarterback. And you just run a game.
Will McDonald, FAU, and you get Anton Harrison and Jones and different guys there, right? Whoever it might be. And you just play a little 7-on-7, except for the tackle defensive ends that are, doing their one-on-one drills.
I think this is a great idea. I think you basically have recreated NFL Street, which is obviously my goal at all times in all sports. Is the closer we get to that, the better. And Patrick Mahomes just decides whoever has the best performance that day. Congratulations, you're a Kansas City Chief. We're going to need the NFL to sign off on this.
Congratulations. We will do whatever it takes to draft you.
Or just like, hey, other teams, if you take whoever wins the Battle Royale becomes Eli Manning for this draft class. It's like, no, I don't care where you go.
Would it actually be a battle royale, though?
Yes. This will also definitely thin out the number of first round grades because unfortunately, in Shrek when Lord Farquaad says, unfortunately, many of you will die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
That's right.
That's Brett Veach in this scenario.
The Seattle Seahawks general manager John Schneider, who had his press conference, said that he expects trade talks to heat up next week as it gets closer to the NFL draft. That is a team that I feel like has a sign that says open for business, are the Seattle Seahawks. They have the 2 picks in the first round. They've got the number 5 pick. They got the number 20 pick.
Yep.
That's the spot that I've, in the simulations, which are absolutely going to happen. That's the spot typically if the Chiefs have a Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers that they covet more than another, boy, early 20s is when, if they are available, they're probably gone by then. Now, it is also interesting that Quentin Johnston not attending the draft nor receiving an invite, correct? So if
I don't know if he received an invite or not.
I don't know either, but that could be him just having his own draft party, or it could be the NFL saying, well, we're not totally convinced that, because how do they send out the draft, invites? Because the combine, it's the teams and the GMs that send out a bunch of names, and the NFL takes all of those names and they, come up with the top whatever of those players that the teams have talked about and they want to see. Do they do the same thing with who are your first round graded players? Who are the first round grades that you have on these players? And then you take all of those and sort of tabulate it with points.
I don't know. I've never been invited myself, so I'm unfortunately not aware.
Oh.
I keep thinking maybe.
Well, Brett Veach will be invited. Here he is right now.
Wow. Certainly excited for next Thursday. I know the entire organization is looking forward to seeing the show Kansas City puts on. I'm sure it'll be a great show. A lot of buzz around the city, a lot of excitement around the building. Before we get started, I certainly want to thank my staff for all their hard work. It's since that Super Bowl parade, it's been combine meetings, combine for agency, back to combine meetings, and they've been really putting in the extra work up there along with the coaching staff. So can't thank them enough. And again, look forward to next week. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Hey, Brett, can you go into the major free agents you signed and what you liked about them, and how you feel like they fit here? Taylor, Omenihu, Edwards, Tranquil, Rich Richie James?
Yeah, certainly. All good players. Starting off first with Jawan Taylor, just a guy that we liked from his days in college at Florida. Really athletic player. As we all know, he played right tackle in Florida predominantly. He had some snaps at left tackle, played right tackle in the NFL, but he's a guy athletically. I mean, he's long, quick feet, really efficient pass protector, and I think it was in the secret that once free agency started, a tackle was at the top of that list, and I think we have great flexibility with him. He certainly wants the opportunity to play left, but I mean, if we were to draft a left tackle, I mean, we know what Dewan's tape looks like at right tackle there, so excited to get him. With Charles, having our roster set up where we're losing some guys at the time, we'll see some of these guys are still out there, but like Frank and Carlos and Colin, we were a little bit depleted there on the defensive line. So I think Charles was a guy that made a lot of sense for us. He can play a lot of base end on early rundowns, but I think the thing that really appealed to us was his inside pass rush ability. He's long, he's athletic, and again, we just feel like pairing him with Chris Jones inside on third downs is something that will be really beneficial for us. Then you get to Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards was a guy that we actually have a lot of familiarity with. A couple years ago, when Matt House was here, we brought him from Kentucky. He was a DC at Kentucky. He coached Mike Edwards, and since then, Matt's now down at LSU. And once we started this free agency process, we talked to Matt, and recalling his days at Kentucky, just the scheme fit here. And even though Spags doesn't run exactly what Matt did in Kentucky, there's a lot of carryover. So from an X&O standpoint, that just fit the bill with Juan leaving here and went to third safety. Made a lot of sense. And then the last one, sometimes it's just really good value with Drew Tranquil. I don't know if we went into free agency saying linebacker was a super high priority. I think we probably focused on the O&D line predominantly. But then as free agency goes, there's always some guys that for some reason or the other are just out there and they're really good players. And we just picked up communication because Drew Tranquil actually has the same agent as Juju. So when we were trying to work through that Juju situation, once we congratulated Juju's crew and his team of agents, we were made aware that Drew Tranquil was still out there, and having had a lot of experience playing against him, knew how good he was, and a guy that can play all three positions. He can play Mike, he can wear the green dot and back up Bolton, he can play some Will, and he can play some on the line of scrimmage, great blitzer, great in pass coverage. So I think all three of those guys, four of those guys made sense for us, and I think they'll be really key additions.
What about Richie James?
Richie James too, and so again, he's got to play with Mike Kafka last year in that Dayball offense in New York. Versatile player. You can move him around a lot. Middle Tennessee State guy that we liked. Actually, I think a few years ago there was a trading deadline period when he was at the Niners. I think we actually tried to trade for him, one of those waiver wire cut day deals. But always liked the player. I think he's a versatile guy, and he also does punt returns too. And so we can take some pressure off of KT or Sky or whoever's back there. Just having another guy is something we think is a plus.
Brett, with the number of people we expect, or everybody expects to be here, particularly if it's good weather, 500,000, whatever it's going to be, how tough would it be to do the right football thing maybe, and that is trade out of the first round? How do you have a party and then not have the birthday cake?
I don't think it would be hard at all. I know there was a lot of joking last year about Clark saying you can't trade a pick, and listen, maybe there was some truth to it, but I think that applied more to in the off season or like last summer. I mean, we're here now, so I think a trade down is part of the draft, and it gives people more of a reason to come back on Friday and see us do even more work. But I think we're at the party now, so it's all up in the air, and I think anything's a possibility.
Brett, when it comes to the draft in totality, where do you see the value pockets in this year's class?
I think it's a good defensive back class. I think there's a lot of corners. I think it's every year you go to the combine, you have a group of guys in one, a group of guys in two, and then usually they kind of work themselves up either higher on a tier or lower on a tier, and it seems like all those guys in that second wave of corners went to the combine and ran 4.3. The numbers were crazy. These are all big, athletic, fast corners. I think it's a really good draft in the defensive backfield. I think there's depth late in the linebacker position. Tight end class is good. So I think it's on how you see the board, and every team will see it differently. And I think it may be viewed to some teams as really deep because those are like if you need a DB, I think it's a really good class, and if you're pretty good at that position, you might say it's a thin class. But like every year, I mean, there'll be chances and opportunities to get guys in certain different rounds that make a lot of sense and get really good value on. So we just have to be, on point with our board like we have been in the past.
But what do you make of just your wide receiver situation as it stands, and also just heading into the draft in this year's class there?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of these positions. I think you always are looking to get more talent and get deeper. There's a lot of players we like, and certainly MVS and Sky and Tony, brought Justin Watson back, Richie James. So we have really good players, and we can certainly go out there and line up and win games. But I'd say the same about the offensive line, the defensive line, and the receiver position. I mean, we're always looking to get deeper and more athletic and more talented. So, I mean, we're happy with the guys we have, but like every team in this draft, we can find ways to make our team better.
Greg, what led to Zay Flowers being able to do the workout with Pat? Obviously, Pat has been in the draft in previous years to some degree. How does that come about, and what do you feel like you gained with Pat's eyes even before the draft?
I think it has more to do with the power of Pat Mahomes. I mean, these guys it's funny because these guys are working out all over the country, and I think it's no secret Pat's down there on a college campus, and he's working out with pro players from other teams. He's working out with college players. I think some high school players are there. So these good players and the agents, they know where the good players are, and they connect, and they have a workout. But I don't think it was a secret. It wasn't like it was a private indoor facility that was closed off to the public. I mean, there was, I think, a documentary on Patrick going on right now, so there's a lot of cameras there. But no, it's just a really good job by the agent and the player to just get in contact with those guys and get in the throwing lines. And I think it was really smart by the kid and the agent. So, but Pat has a lot of fun with that. I think it's really cool that he's welcoming to all these guys, whether it be other players from other pro teams, college guys, or even high school guys. It's pretty cool that those guys get to say that they threw Pat Mahomes.
So what's Pat's advice about him? Draft him?
He has fun with all those guys. I mean, I don't know how much you can get from a 20-minute throwing session. Look quick, was in shape, but no, he likes it. And I think there was a couple quarterbacks. I think Niners had a quarterback down there too. So, but I think with players like that, I mean, you see them work out at the pro day at the combine, and I think it speaks more about the kids just wanting to just be around great players, and so that's certainly a positive.
Brett, how do you see the right tackle position as you guys currently have it, with the candidates being Yang, Winogo, and maybe Kennard?
Yeah, and I think that's how we see it, Pete. I think we have a lot of hopes for Lucas, and he was a guy that actually won that starting right tackle position. Then he got hurt. It's been a little bit of an uphill battle. He had a pretty bad injury there, but he has worked phenomenally to get in shape, and Rick and the staff has done a great job of continuing to get him in the right positions to go out there and be productive. And Prince is a guy that has always kind of steadily grown every year he's been here, and I think Kennard, I'm excited for him, and I think he'll have a chance to play some tackle. We certainly think he has flex, and he may end up being ultimately a better guard. He's played right tackle in the past, and he was a guy that struggled a little early on, but I think toward the end of training camp there and throughout the season, you guys probably don't get to see as much during the season, but he's, I think, growing rapidly over the last few months. And I know Coach Heck is really excited for where he is. So, and again, I think he's a guy that has flexibility, so he'll probably get reps at both guard and tackle there. But between those three guys, and we have three solid guys that can go in there and compete, and I'm sure we'll look to continue to add depth all across that offensive line.
Brett, you haven't missed in previous drafts. It's safe to say that, but does that allow you not to be as conservative and possibly take some chances?
I think it's a good question. I think we'll have a list of guys that we'll feel like we want to be aggressive on, and if it works out number-wise, I think we'll sit there in 31 and we'll have a few guys, and if they're there and we think it's in range, reasonable, where we're not giving up a ton, I don't see us trading up too high in the draft or anything like that. But I mean, if there's a guy that we really like and we're in that range, and we'll sit here in the next few days here and determine what range we feel is comfortable for us. We'll sit there and potentially make that move, and we'll be content with staying there. I'm sure there'll be a good player there at 31, and then certainly be open to trading back if all those guys that we had in mind are gone. So I think we'll kind of see how it goes, and these things change so quickly and so fluidly. I mean, but I don't think we'd be opposed to being aggressive if we felt the player warranted.
Right, you mentioned Rick Burkhalter's name a second ago, and we know the NFLPA report came out. I know Coach Reed addressed it, that his name was mentioned.
But also they talked about the facility. Coach talked about, well, we know 2031, you guys are going to be probably somewhere else. How often do you get an agent say to you when you're talking free agency, oh, my guy likes it, but your building's not good enough, or we hear bad? Like, does that ever even come up, or is that something that's? Have you ever had an agent say, oh, we really like the building somewhere else? I mean, does that? Or is it all dollars at your level?
It's probably all dollars. I'd honestly, I can't sit here and say an agent ever said, could go either way, but you guys need a new indoor. I don't think that ever happens. I think that what attracts players and agents here is coach and quarterback, and I think Arrowhead Stadium, and I think the great fans that we have. I think that agents may not see the indoor complex and may not know how to tier or stack that, but they see Arrowhead and the experience there. So I think when you have that stadium, the quarterback and the coach, I think we do okay with those kind of competitive battles.
Brett, you've got the deadline coming up on Clyde. Do you anticipate exercising that or no?
We have some time here. We'll see. I just think we'll go through the draft and we'll handle our business and just make smart decisions like we always do. I don't think we've reached a decision on anything yet, but it's safe to say that once we get through the draft, we'll look at our board, look at our off-season business that we have to attend to, some different players, and contract stuff, and we'll handle all that after the draft.
Right. With everything that you've done with Spags over the past few years, now adding Joe Cullen into the mix, what are the traits that you like to see from defensive linemen, whether it's this year's class or just in general? And I guess how much is versatility high on the priority list? Yeah, the versatility
is high on the list on really all across the board on both sides of football at every position. Guys, receivers that can play inside and outside, and tight ends that can be difference makers in the pass game, but also block. And as you mentioned with Steve, the intelligence factor though, and Steve, every coach wants smart players, but I don't know if I've ever been around a coach that puts that premium at the highest level, and he wants guys that he wants to do a lot of different things, very much like coach on the offensive side. He wants to do a lot of different things. He wants to give a lot of different looks. He wants to disguise a lot of different coverages, and he wants these guys to be all on the same page and all in tune and be ready to fly and be ready to play fast. And but obviously there'd be certain traits with running his scheme and playing 4 down, being long, athletic, and what have you. But certainly just the intelligence factor is, the standard that we set there is that makes it tricky a little bit in the draft because like Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis are great examples. Those guys were great players, but those guys could be coaches down the line. They're so smart and they're so dedicated. But no, Steve likes guys that are tough, versatile, smart, and certainly you want to come to work every day.
Right, last year, one of your needs, going into the draft, you really stacked numbers as far as defensive backs. Was that the way it fell, or was that some sort of strategic maneuver you made going into the draft? And just what did you learn from that you might be able to apply going forward too?
Yeah, I think it was kind of the mindset. I think we value that position, and I know that there was some joking in the past that we didn't value the position and we'll just find them late. And I think it really speaks more to us. Listen, it's a good problem to have, but we pick late, and sometimes those corners aren't there. Either the draft doesn't have the numbers, or the guys that fall later in rounds 1 or 2 just maybe for some reason don't fit a medical or character. But I think it just kind of double down on the the mindset that we have, that it is important, and you do have to throw numbers at this, and let's really go to work on these 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. And there's other players, other positions that for some reason or the other it just didn't work out at corner. If we have opportunities like we did last year with McDuffie, like we're going to do it because we value that position. If we're unable to get a corner, we know how hard those guys are to find, how expensive they are in free agency. And so I think that was part of the process here. Let's throw numbers at this, and let's work with the coaches. Let's take a pocket of corners, and let's really condense those numbers down, give them to the coaches, and have really good dialogue here, and not be afraid to take multiple guys.
How much does that apply to like a different position, like as far as you get 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, and look at what you drafted already in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round? Or are you willing to
have that mindset all across?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think the premium positions, O-line, D-line, corners, I think all those guys, but also too, I think it works in tandem with the draft and you know how deep these positions are throughout the board. And last year, you know, it was the running back position. There was a ton. So we just felt like there was more opportunities to get guys that we had valued in around 5 and 6 in the 7th round, just because the numbers suggested. So I think it's working with the premium positions, and it's also working with numbers. So you're going to prioritize throwing numbers at O-line, D-line, corner. But when you also notice that a position group, like say running back last year, is super deep, well, there's probably going to be guys that you have as 5th round talent, maybe even low 4, that are there in 7. So I think kind of just a matter of working through all the information that the board kind of explains to you.
Right. I know this is a franchise quarterback contract offseason. Obviously, the guy gets paid next is always going to be the highest paid. Where do you guys see maybe reworking the deal with Pat at some point, and where does that stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, we have a special relationship with him and his agent, and you know, we're in constant communication, as you mentioned, Pete. I mean, it's one of those things, and I think Coach hinted on this his last press conference, where as soon as one guy gets done, it's kind of the blueprint model, and 2 years later, it's jumped and exceeded. And so, but you know, I think that this organization and the relationship we have with Pat will always be working to make sure that we're doing right by everybody. And you know, there'll be a couple more contracts that still have to get done. You know, Burrow and Herbert. And once they do, I think kind of look at everything and assess where you are and what you can do, and take it from there.
Right. When you were in Mount Carmel, tracking all the football scouting the way you did, I'm curious how much you followed the NFL draft then and how you followed it.
Back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
you
it
had
was
your caveman techniques.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun, and that was something that I think every kid looked forward to, and draft day and doing the mock drafts, and you know, I think I told you guys before, we still look at mock drafts. I mean, who doesn't look at mock drafts? I mean, it's you know, one of the best parts about this whole process here is logging online and checking out different mocks and who going where, and we have a lot of fun with it, and sparks a lot of debate, and you know, kind of those who's going to go first and how many of a certain position will go in a certain round, and what have you. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and you know, my friends always remind me of it to this day. I like when we're on the clock and I get a text from a hometown friend telling me what to do. So that's always good.
So you guys, from then till now, are you still a little amazed at what the draft has become in terms of the space it occupies? Or what's your sense of how it's got to be that, or why it's like this?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I don't know if I ever thought about it, but when you kind of throw that question out there, it's just absolutely amazing from where this has gone to now traveling all over across the country and allowing cities to put on, you know, great performance. And I think it's cool because, you know, not every city can have a Super Bowl just because of how big that is, but they can have a part of this NFL experience with different things, and this draft is really cool. I think it's going to be really great for the kids. There's going to be a lot of kids that are come out there and get to do a lot of cool things with the NFL, you know, what they have in the outfields at the Play 60 thing. NFL experience. I mean, they're going to have the 40-yard dashes and all the rings, and you know, there'll certainly be a kid out there in the crowd today that will be either a player or be a front office member one day, and I think that they'll probably use this experience that the NFL has provided to really spark that interest.
Would you have gone to this if it were at a
theater
near you as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have been there all 3 days, and I would have been, you know, trying to network to see if I can get tickets, for sure.
Would you be the guy booing if the Chiefs draft?
Probably, yeah.
But I know teams are different when it comes to like taking guys off the board, whether it's a character or an injury thing. You know, one doctor might say, okay, one night. Taking those out of the equation, what round does it usually start where you're like, well, we didn't have that. We would never take that guy. Like, you know, where teams start to spike in different directions, and somebody takes someone where you're like, oh, I can't believe they took that guy. Like, where does that? You know, not that I'm not saying you're demeaning the other team for doing it, but just for whatever reason, you start seeing guys come off the board that there was no chance you were going to take him.
Oh, I mean, it happens in round one. I mean, yeah, there'll be guys.
And you wouldn't take it all. Some
Yeah.
people will go in the first round, and
Yeah.
you're like, we wouldn't have touched the guy.
Yeah.
Not character or injury, just the.
You mean just the
Yeah,
talent?
take character and injury out of it.
I would say that I would say usually it gets every now and then. There's maybe, I mean, and look, maybe teams say that about us, right? But I would say every year it definitely starts in the third round. But I would say for the most part, the first 50 guys are probably consensus guys. I think once you get past 50, there's a smaller deviation But then once you get to the third round, it's all bets off. And there's guys that we have in the seventh round that go top of 3 and vice versa. So for sure the third round. And then every year there's always probably a couple, guys that we probably have in 3 or 4 going 2, early 2 or something like that. That happens. I don't think it's a rarity. And like I said, I'm sure there's guys that we probably drafted in the second or third rounds that teams had lower. So I would just say from a volume standpoint, I think you really start to see it starting with the third round. You'll get some curveballs here or there in rounds 1 or 2, but I mean the numbers aren't super high.
We're just going to work.
And plus, real quick with that, I think it may have been more likely back in the day, but now with social media and all the mocks and there's no secrets anymore. And some guys that you think this guy's going to be a steal here in 3, it's like by the time the whole process ends, it's consensus across social media that this guy's going in 1. And so I think, and maybe it doesn't necessarily mean a guy jumped from 3 to 1, but I mean the guy's not a sleeper or what have you, or a small school guy. There's just so much coverage on every aspect of this. I mean the pro days get live, networks coming down there doing live feeds, so there's not a lot of secrets. So it's been less over the years.
Yeah, Brett, whenever you're deciding between potentially trading up for a player, what intangibles or characteristics are you really want to have boxes checked to make that move up?
Well, I think it's just the intangibles and the characteristics. I think all that is done as we're setting the board, and in regards to on the aggressive scale, how aggressive we are. It's just how we feel about that player. But the player and the values are, that's part of the makeup, the versatility, the character, the work ethic. That all encapsulates what we feel about this player and where he is. And then once he's locked in on that board, if he's in that range and we're in a zone where we think we can't get him or he won't make it to us, that determines kind of our aggressiveness or our level of aggressiveness.
Brett, Sam asked you a minute ago about wide receiver in general, but Kadarius Toney, what are your expectations for him? What do you think his ceiling is, maybe this year at least?
Yeah, I mean he's down there with Pat. He's one of these guys that we're down there throwing. Talent-wise, it's up there. I mean he's really good. I mean he can do anything. He's predominantly been a guy that is a slot receiver, returner, runner, gadget guy, if you will, but I don't know if there's a limit on his game because he has a vertical game. I think we've seen it just a little in the Jacksonville game, the regular season Jacksonville game. His time in college, I don't know if they were a team that pushed the ball vertically down the field, and then his time early on in New York, I don't know if they were a team that really vertically pushed the ball down the field. So, I mean, it's a fair question to say, has he ever played with a quarterback that likes to push the ball down the field? Now, we got him in here middle of the season, and so there's only so much you can do with him. But I don't think he's limited to a specific role, and it'll just be a matter of, like it is with all these players, just staying healthy and getting through camp. He's extremely smart, though, so it's not going to be anything grasping ideas or concepts. I mean, this kid is really smart. We were surprised by how quickly he picked up. I mean, some guys it takes a year or 2, but I mean, now we condensed it because we were in the middle of the season. There's only so much you can do and get him on board with, but he picked up that stuff really easy. So, I mean, listen, we have a lot of high hopes for him. I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason. There's a reason why we traded him, and we felt like he was first-round talent. So, I think if he stays healthy and continues to just build that chemistry with the coaching staff and with Pat, which I think he's doing a great job at, I think the sky's the limit for him.
Nate, Brett, one of the last steps is the pre-draft visits, bringing guys in. I know sometimes it's for medical or for obviously answer that you want to give, but what do those visits do for you guys in terms of maybe that swings a guy closer up the board, or obviously you might have an answer where you sort of take him off the board. Can you generally go through why that last step is needed?
Yeah, and Nate, I think the first part you hit on. Most of these guys you bring in, they weren't invited to the combine. The great part about the combine is you get to interview the guys, you get to work them out, but I mean they go through pretty extensive medical. The guys don't get invited. You don't really have anything. You don't have any updated imaging on them or MRIs, X-rays, what have you. So all these guys that we think are draftable prospects, I think first let's bring them in. But then there's also a handful of guys that we liked and maybe we just didn't get a great first impression on when we met with them at the combine. So we like to spend that time to just cross our T's and dot our I's. And there's been times where, we bring guys in and we weren't comfortable with them, the pre-combine process, weren't comfortable with the combine, but we like the tape so much, let's just make sure one more time. And, it usually just kind of solidifies that thought. But there's times, I think trying to think. I think Jalen Watson last year, he was a guy that I think that we met at the combine, and we weren't sure that this would be a great fit. But we liked him, and we wanted to bring him back in. I think we had the combine medical on him already, but he was a guy that we brought back into the facility last year, and you know, both my staff and the coaches kind of did a 180 on him. And like, this kid you take him out of that combine environment, he had a chance to kind of just relax, and you know, he's been through a lot in his career trajectory, but that was a great example there where I don't think we were comfortable drafting him in any round after the combine, and we brought him in here, and I mean, it was just a completely different story. We fell in love with the kid, and we were super excited to draft him, and he's done a great job for us. So I mean, it's one of those things, just let's be sure on the guys that you like, and it can go in both ways. It could maybe potentially take a guy off the board, but also could put a guy back on the board.
Well, with what happened to the 49ers in the playoffs with their quarterback situation that I don't recall ever happening, do you think that that's going to cause, or you'll see more GMs looking at handling that position differently?
Potentially. I think that they're always going to work, and I think this was brought up at the owners' meeting, and Coach Shanahan talked about it, and potentially down the line of having the ability to elevate a practice squad player. So I think one of the things that was being discussed is if teams that carry two quarterbacks, they're going to have a practice squad guy that is dressed game day, and if there is an emergency where both quarterbacks can't come in, that you can elevate a third quarterback. I think there'll be a lot of league discussions about that. I certainly don't think that that's a position that the league wants teams to be in. I think teams are going to formulate their roster, though. I don't think that, and I think Kyle said this at the owners' meetings, I think that if you have a really good fourth running back or fifth tight end, you're not going to keep running backs. You're not going to keep another quarterback just on the thought of a once in a shot in the moon here, like what happened with the Niners. I think Kyle was right in saying that teams aren't going to formulate it. I mean, they're going to put their roster together to give them the best advantage, week in and week out. And I don't think, the thought of losing two quarterbacks in the same game is something that probably coaches or GMs are they're probably going to just go against the percentages of that happening. So I think teams will continue to do what's best. Now, listen, if you have a good young prospect that you want, like, for example, you have a veteran, but you have a good young prospect. We were like that last year, where thought it could be Chad Henne's last year and weren't sure, but we think Shane has a lot of developmental upside. So you keep those guys, but teams that just have a clear-cut 1 and 2, I don't think teams are just going to start keeping third quarterbacks and cutting a really potentially like a Najee Johnson last year or Cochran last year. I think teams are going to keep those guys to be players. So, but I do think, though, that's at the league level now, and I'm sure that this will be something that's on their radar, and it could get worked out with something as simple as just a practice squad player being able to suit up and be ready if needed.
PJ? Brett, y'all brought a number of guys back from last season. Have there been any talk with Jarek, and kind of what's the plan for the running back room going forward?
Yeah, I think there has been some talk with Jarek, and I mean, he's certainly a guy that we love and greatly admire, and I think this follows a similar trajectory as last year, where I think Jarek just likes to take his time and make sure that he's ready to go both physically and mentally. And I think the timeline last year was right after the draft, so we were able to get with him. So I think once we get past next weekend, I think we'll double up with a lot of these guys that might still have a chance to be on this roster.
Todd, last question.
I was just curious if you could take me inside the process, because you guys are used to drafting late in the first round, right? So you're at the mercy of the other teams. When do you start laying the groundwork for conversations with other GMs about, can I get up to 15, can I get up to 21, and that kind of stuff? And do you ever have to give assurances like, hey, do you have to tell them who you're going up for or anything like that? Like, just what's that conversation like when you're trying to move around?
Yeah, typically what we do is, like for example, this year at 31, I think we'll find a range of, where we think we'd be comfortable moving up. We'll kind of highlight a few guys that we think if they fall to a certain point, they'd be worth it. And then we'll figure out, last year, for example, we moved from, I think it was 30 to 21 or 22. I don't know if it was a 3 and a 5 we gave up. So I think we started looking at those values, and the charts are never completely accurate, because some teams may be willing to take a little bit less. So I think what we do is we'll probably give or take 1 or 2 on each side. We'll get to a range, so call it 30 to 20. And then maybe from teams 18 to 30, we'll just call and say, prior to the draft, what would you be thinking on draft day if you were not comfortable with or I shouldn't say not comfortable, but what would you be thinking on draft day if you wanted to move out of that pick? We like to have those conversations ahead of time so that teams aren't on the clock and then they're trying to tell you what you want, and then you're trying to say, well, you're using the Cowboy board, we're using the Cardinals board, and you're using the Detroit board. So like these teams all have different boards, and so we reach out and, like I said, we'll get we'll touch base with the first 10 teams, 12 teams in front of us. We'll our guys will call their guys. We'll have a communication on who's using what board, and so that when we get to that pick, we've already had discussions with teams 18, 19, and 20 that if we get there, they're using this board, and this is what they would want, and this is what we can expect if we wanted that. So it's not like trying to figure out, again, what board and exactly the numerical count they're using, because then, things happen quickly here, so you have to be prepared. So we do a lot of this on the back end, and usually that's most of the time we spend Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays before the draft, just making sure that teams know that we're interested, either trading up or trading back, and we know the teams that are interested in trading down, and we know exactly what they want and what board they're using.
And do you ever have to give the assurances about, like, hey, we won't take this player or anything like that?
No, because I think if a team wants a player, they're going to take him regardless. We just want to know if they're interested in moving back, what they want, and ahead of time. So, again, like, we're not having this debate on, whose chart's right and why we're using this chart. Like, let's just get that out of the way early and know what we're dealing with.
Last one.
Brett, noticed your T-shirt. Can you tell us about what your shirt's all about?
Oh yeah, so I was joking with Ted. My son does some doodle arting. I guess it's called doodle art. I guess that's the big thing with the young kids now. So they do that in school, and I kind of joked with him one day. This was a black and white print, and I joked with him one day. I said that'd be really cool, and Mom kind of said, Dad should wear that next time he does press. So. Needless to say, they had the T-shirt waiting for me before I left today. So I figured I had to rock it today for a little support. Good luck.
Thank you.
Awesome story. There is a monster eating something, a cartoon type monster with huge fangs that's eating something. That's the front of his shirt. The doodle art from his son, and a great idea from Mom of Daddy should wear that the next time he does some media and wear that in front of the world. And apparently he woke up with a shirt waiting for him. Awesome. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Tons of stuff to take away from that. We'll try to get into as much as we can coming up next here in the Zone on Sports Radio 810.
Want to see more of the Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. So, a number of things from Brett Veach. Clark Hunt, it was just a joke. They need to trade back. The draft's already here, okay? And then trading back might make it even more anticipated and attended on Friday. He had mentioned that. Sounded like Zay Flowers wasn't through the Chiefs. Said his agent did a pretty good job of hooking up with Patrick Mahomes, and the player agent getting in contact with him. Good job by the agent. You know, they connect, they have a workout. Adam Schefter said, per request from the team, to have him go down to Texas. Veach sort of sounded like, nope, that was them.
Somebody's not telling the whole truth.
Yes, and nothing but the truth is what we're looking for. He had mentioned that, always looking to get deeper. He said, we can go out and win. He was asked about wide receiver. We can go out and win right now with what we have, but we happy with what we have, but we can get deeper. And he said the same thing with offensive line and defensive line. He mentioned multiple times on, different mindsets with different positions, premium positions, and over kept saying offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. Didn't mention wide receiver in that. Well, premium positions, offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. Well, when you're looking at different pockets of depth and some of those premium positions, offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. It's just interesting that was a theme that kept coming up with him. Great story about the Jalen Watson. That was one of the highlights of the press conference. They did not plan on drafting Jalen Watson.
Didn't know if he'd be a fit, was the phrasing.
Wasn't
right?
a good fit at the combine. Didn't really like him. Weren't really going to draft him, but they loved other traits and everything about him, except for that just didn't seem right at the combine. Bring him in, complete 180, and said, we love this guy.
Got him in a different, out of that combine environment. That's another level to all of those visits and stuff, man. You're just trying to get a different angle on some of these guys.
They are not going to have the fifth-year option on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That is not a surprise.
Veach didn't say that, everybody, but we all know it.
Yes, we all know it.
Veach said they'll make that choice after the draft.
They have a few players that they have listed as these are players will be aggressive and go up and trade with, and they have already reached out to the 10 to 12 teams ahead of them to see what they're looking for if they needed to trade back to 31. So they have those parameters set already if they want to make a contact, make a phone call. And Jerick McKinnon said similar trajectory as last year. Maybe he just wants to sort of take it a little slow. But after draft, we'll look at him and then mention that they signed him after the draft last year. They signed him on June 13th. That was 6 weeks after the draft last year. So it wasn't just like, oh, right after the draft, let's get on that. But McKinnon talked about specifically with that. Any highlights that you saw that I missed there?
I think that was most of them. The only other thing from right at the top, a lot of stuff about the big signings. Juwan Taylor saying, hey, he wants to play left tackle. Not like he needs to play left tackle, but he'd like to play left tackle. But if they draft a left tackle, Veach put that out there himself, then they like him on the right side too. They specifically talked about really liking Omenihu on the inside and specifically said, and then put this beautiful vision into my mind of putting him on the inside with Chris Jones on third downs. That sounds delicious to me. And then also that they didn't necessarily see linebacker as a big need coming into the offseason, but it was, quote, just really good value with Drew Tranquill. And I agree with that. I was not expecting them to make any sort of splash signing at linebacker, but that contract was lower than I would have expected. So interesting things there on just some of the big splashes from free agency too.
Yep, and mentioned throwing numbers at certainly was asked about cornerbacks. Was that the strategy that you were going to throw numbers at it? He said, yeah, that was, it's part of the process that we look at depth and those premium positions, offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. And then asked, okay, what about different positions in cornerback? Is that the same mindset? And said, yeah, those premium positions, offensive line, defensive line, cornerback, positions, deeper premium positions, those numbers you would want to throw numbers at that. Then I think, and then Soren asked about where the boards start to deviate from
that was
team to team.
fascinating, yeah.
Usually the third round. Top 50 kind of consensus, but usually around the third round is when it starts getting, we had them as a seventh, or that guy's a seventh, they took him in the third. We had this guy as, a fifth rounder, they took him in the fourth. You start to really deviate there, and he's like, it might have happened with us, taking somebody, and other people are like, oh, we did not have him that high, so... We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We got Sports or Leisure coming up at 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We had up until 2 o'clock. We got Sports or Leisure coming up at 1 o'clock, 913-381-810, presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. We will be giving away if you get a sports question and a leisure question right. Brett Veach talking in the previous segments at the top of the noon hour, so earlier this hour, and just talking about a number of different things. One other quick one, we were talking about the facilities when the NFLPA survey went out, and Brett Veach said, it's probably all dollars that people are looking for. He said agents never said something like, player loves it, but you need a new indoor facility. So, and then he said, stadium quarterback coach. We feel like we can hold our own in these battles with free agents that are there. Yeah. Arrowhead, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and a chance to win the Super Bowl. Also, you're getting paid millions of dollars, so if it's not a competitive offer, they're not going to examine that. If it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, is it spacious lockers or Arrowhead, Patrick Mahomes, and Andy Reid that can be the difference maker with that? I think all of those are part of it. And then also sort of talking about Kadarius Toney, mentioned that, at Florida, they never really showed his vertical game. And with the Giants, they didn't really utilize his vertical game. And with the Chiefs, early on in being a part of the team midseason, they had to scale it down and condense everything for him so that he could, make sure he grasped enough of the offense to be able to play. And they're like, look, he was really smart. He picked up on that very quickly, but we didn't throw the whole, book at him. But he's a guy that hasn't shown the vertical game that they believe is there, and there is no real limit on his game. So that's interesting. So along with MVS, that Kadarius Toney, at least from Brett Veach talking about that, more of a vertical game from Kadarius Toney this year with learning more of the playbook. So use him in different ways. Vertical, out wide. I mean, McCole Hardman, it was sort of the same thing. He was a guy that could go vertical. He was a guy they threw the ball down the line of scrimmage to. So hopefully KT does that.
I think they're going to try to get Kadarius Toney to do just about everything physically possible this year.
Yeah.
Even if it's to figure out where those deficiencies might actually be. So far, I don't think he has shown himself to be incapable of anything. It's a matter of, if he's healthy, what do you want him to do, not what can he do.
Yep.
It'll be fascinating to see how much they lean into that this year.
Yeah, and hopefully it's everything on the field. Hopefully it's everything. Kadarius Toney is doing this, he's doing that, he's taking handoffs, and he's healthy. That would be great. Also saying that if they're looking at it right now, Niang would be the starting right tackle. Prince Tega Winogo, Darian Kennard also around there, but Niang would be the starting right tackle. I mentioned, look, he won the job a couple of years ago before injury, so it's not exactly like somebody they don't know what he would look like. We'll take a timeout. Sports or Leisure coming up next.
Kansas City's official home of the NFL Draft.
that's continuously voted Missouri's best. Open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. For more information and to find a location near you, visit them online at greenlightdispensary.com. The news isn't getting better for Sporting Kansas City as Peter Vermees announced today that Willie Agada has a stress fracture in his tibia and will require surgery. Meanwhile, Dom Dwyer was at SKC training today, potentially opening the door for his return to Sporting in Agada's absence. The Royals are off today after being swept by the Rangers yesterday, getting smoked 12-3. They'll end the month of April with just one win at Kauffman Stadium. Meanwhile, the Arizona Diamondbacks have DFA'd pitcher Madison Bumgarner, eating more than $34 million with the move. We play Sports or Leisure next in the Zone. I'm Joshua Briscoe. This is SportsCenter.
You're into sports, but nothing wrong with a little leisure time. Why not both?
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on the Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, that's right. Time for a little Sports or Leisure. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. 913-381-0810. First in, first on. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. We're giving away. Get a sports question, get a leisure question right. You win. Either of them wrong, you lose. So what's this concept? The Giants, you mentioned, they owe somebody a lot of money, but...
Did I say the Giants?
Sorry, the Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
They owe somebody a lot of money, but he's ineffective. And it's a net negative of this person on the team. So you can just let that guy go, even though you owe him money?
Let me read it again here.
Yeah,
DFA'd pitcher, it's designated for assignment, which means they're eating more than $34 million. Yep, that's what happened.
$34 million. That's roughly double of what Dozier's owed.
Look, when you're a huge team like the Arizona Diamondbacks, you can afford to make moves like that.
That is true. Arizona with a stacked lineup and a lot of high-priced players that are there, and they usually just blow through money anyway.
That's right.
The Diamondbacks they're traditionally one of the teams that's in the higher upper echelons of the luxury tax.
I mean, they don't have fountains in their outfield. They have swimming pools.
See?
Exactly.
Yeah. The lady thought it was a swimming pool. It's not. You're not allowed to go. You can have fountain seats, but not actually sit in the fountains. That's a lesson a lot of people need to learn. Also a lesson that apparently you can let somebody go who's incredibly ineffective, even though you owe them money.
I think that the Royals should bring Madison Bumgarner in and say, hey, here's our cosmic revenge on you. You're now pitching for us, and you're getting no run support whatsoever.
Actually, they should bring him in and play third base. A guy who's too expensive, that's not bringing much back in terms of value.
Bumgarner's a good hitter for a pitcher, right?
See? Well,
do you have a home run?
His career OPS is like 50 points lower than the Royals is this year.
You'd barely even notice.
You know what? You have just inspired me
I'm on
to
it.
look. I think we're both.
I'm deep into the page already. I just got to scroll down to
We're
hitting.
both doing the
Come
same
on, give me
thing.
hitting stats.
I don't need advanced pitching or postseason.
2 home
pitching.
runs in 2019. 19. That can't. What? What? Does he have 19 career home runs?
Yeah, why wouldn't he?
He has 19 home runs and 65 RBI.
So,
never stolen a base. Never been caught stealing.
That's true.
His on-base percentage is 232. That is better than people starting every day for the Royals right now, right?
Madison Bumgarner's OPS for his career is 524.
Yeah.
OPSing at 524. If we're keeping score at home, Hunter Dozier's OPSing at 386 right now. So, in fact, Madison Bumgarner's career would be a more effective hitter right now than Hunter Dozier would be.
Is that bad?
I mean, depends on how much money you're paying the person.
That's true. I'd rather be paying Hunter Dozier his current deal than paying Madison Bumgarner his current deal.
Exactly right. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. The issue is, can Madison Bumgarner play third base? Because he has no gold gloves. He has a couple silver sluggers, but it's not a gold glove pitcher. So who knows?
Not a lot of lefties over at third.
I'll take my chances. He's the odd combination of batting right and throws left.
He'd really just be better than Dozier and Michael Massey this year, just from like his career stats.
Yeah. And at least Michael Massey, I feel like there's some extra room for growth there, as opposed to maybe on the other side of 30 for it.
If you just take Bumgarner's last season as where he recorded hitting stats in 2021, that his on base percentage there was .280. That would make him tied with Edward Olivares for 5th best in the Royals roster right now.
Woo! Yep, mad bum. Mad bum. All right, we'll take a break from Royals. Should we do that?
I've been trying to take a break from the Royals since Game 4.
We'll take a break from Royals questions, too.
Oh,
Okay?
I still have the royalty section, so
in sports or leisure.
They're not really Royals questions.
As we told you at the beginning of the show, if you were listening, if you weren't, well, you missed a really important thing that I'm going to say again, and that is just sports or leisure today. We've got draft questions. Some NFL questions, but then NFL draft and Chiefs draft. And what didn't make it to the official piece of paper, I have some questions about Chiefs drafts, mid-round stars. Mid-round drafts that turned into stars. So I've got some of those as well. So those are the categories for the sports side. Very easy. NFL draft, Chiefs draft, mid-round stars. That's on the sports side. What about leisure?
We have Remember the Royals. I'll ask you about royalty, not from the baseball team, but from fiction, maybe history, maybe pop culture. Then we have the commonly misspelled word spelling bee. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? And of course, a few options in the pun name game as well.
Are 5th graders learning about the sunk cost fallacy?
I don't know. I have not seen that come up yet, but I might go ahead and...
If they are, then I do wonder some people if they're smarter than a 5th grader.
I was going to give a little hint as to where the smarter than 5th grader questions might go today, but I really don't want to give anybody a heads up. So
no, don't do that. Don't do that at all. All right, 913-381-0810. I'm ready to roll. Josh, you good?
I'm good. Drake, you good to go?
Okay.
Drake, how you feeling? Drake,
Great.
you ready to do some sports or leisure?
Sure.
Yes, I love the excitement from
It's like
Drake.
Beards is back.
I know. It's only great when we have yet to have somebody back there during sports or leisure that's actually enthusiastic. Shane was, okay. Beards was, Drake's, okay. I mean, I guess it's slowly progressing.
Yeah, well,
Because Shane was just like, hey, B. And Beards was just like, hey. And now Drake is like, eh.
It's been a long week for me.
Whoever's next is going to be, Boy, we are 7 producers away from somebody going, hell yeah, let's leisure
go.
this stuff. Let's
I'm
sports
ready.
it up.
And at this rate, you'll have them in about 2025.
Steinbrenner and managers is apparently me and technical producers.
It's interesting. None of the producers like sports or leisure. That's probably about all of them. They're probably the common denominator.
It's the only thing I can think of. All right, 913-381-0810 is the phone number. Let's get rolling. Sonny is ready to lead us off here on this Thursday. Sonny, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Come on, Dreezy. Come on, Drake. Let's go, buddy. You got to get hyped up.
Let's do this. Sonny is rolling.
Sonny got it done.
Come on, dog.
Right. Sonny's been holding for like 10 minutes. He is ready to go. Longer than that, actually. He called right before the top of the hour.
Sorry, Sonny.
That's all good, bro. You know I'm all good with it. I love you guys to death. All right, man. Jason, let's hit it with the NFL draft questions.
All right, just general NFL draft?
Yep, let's hit it.
All right. Andy Reid has been the head coach for 2 different franchises. So if I'm looking at the first selection Andy Reid had in his first draft with that team, who are the 2 players he has selected?
Donovan McNabb with the Eagles.
Yep. That was the tougher one, actually. I thought maybe McNabb.
And Eric Fisher.
Nailed it.
With the Chiefs.
Look at
Nice job. I thought McNabb would be, because you're looking back, like, was that his first ever draft with the Eagles? It was McNabb and Eric Fisher.
I will never forget my dad throwing stuff across the room when the Eagles took McNabb instead of Ricky Williams in that draft.
Sonny, Eagles fan?
No, bro, but come on, I'm from Philly. I told you guys all about that deal with the Super Bowl in the box and all that.
Yep, absolutely. So
great story.
So Dad, the Eagles, Sonny, the man. All right, on to the leisure with Josh.
What category do you like, Sonny?
Oh, man, I don't know why I do this to myself, but let's hit it with the fun name game.
Oh, boy, okay.
I thought you were going to say, I don't know why I do this to myself. Let's see if I'm smarter than a 5th grader.
Honestly, I was thinking it might be the spelling bee. So really all of these this whole segment's kind of, I don't know why I do this to myself. This one, this is a good tone setter for the pun name game because while Hunter Dozier continues to struggle, he would probably, maybe, might not be a better third baseman on this exact moment in time than another who wore this powder blue uniform. And frankly, I'd let both of those guys go ahead and get their selection in for number 31 overall.
Oh, jeez.
I can't walk you up too close to it because it's...
I mean, it was very convoluted.
It's got to be convoluted, man.
To get to former Royal third baseman and
it's got to be convoluted. If it's not convoluted, what's the point?
Who we heard from today that'll
Suddenly
be drafting next week.
Oh, the zone is now against being convoluted. What a shock.
We're typically surface level. You know?
I don't know, buddy. I'm stuck here.
Former third baseman for the Royals that probably could go out there and hit.
Royals third
right
baseman
now.
who might be an upgrade right now.
I'd take him right now. I bet he could.
I also bet he would. I bet he'd go offense at 31.
Yeah.
In the NFL draft, much like this guy might. Oh,
Sonny,
people are screaming at the radios right now, man.
Sonny, you're right about it when you said, I don't know why I do this to myself.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. Y'all can X me out. I don't know. I'm stumped on that one. I'm going to go update my mock draft. X me out. I don't know.
Sonny, appreciate it, brother. I love it, man. 913-3810810. That pun name game is available for someone.
Sure is.
If they know the answer to that. What do you think he'd bat in Major League Baseball this year?
Right now?
Right now. I mean, the pitchers are pretty nasty, but, you know. Can he bat 100?
Hey, he's a nice 69 years old.
Nice.
I don't know, man.
I know.
I would love to see.
Baseball's too
just,
hard,
I'd love to
man.
see him just get in a cage
Yeah.
and just see what the swing looks like.
Yeah, that would be. I would enjoy that one. All right.
I think the Royals would still just play him like once every 8 days.
And you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to like different Royals players signing one-day contracts.
Yeah,
and bringing
fantasy
them back.
camp.
Like Brett's playing third base tonight. How many people would show up to see Brett play third base tonight?
Can you stop saying his
Yeah.
name for the sake of my question that's still out there, please?
Son of a gun. You would mark that. See, that's why we can't talk about questions.
You know,
too
Hunter
much.
Dozier, John Dorsey.
All right, let's bring in Sean. Look, if they didn't know it already, come on. Sean, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I was actually screaming at the radio.
I figured as much.
You want to go ahead and take that one?
I sure do.
Go ahead.
That would be George Brett Beat.
That is absolutely correct. I thought that was the layup of the pun name games today.
Yeah. Who would the other ones be? Like when Massey's struggling, like Frank White at second base?
Yeah, absolutely.
For a game. Greg Gagne at short. Yeah, let's bring the Hammer, Bob Hamlin playing a game in the outfield, or Ken Harvey at first. I'm in.
What's Nori Aoki up to?
I don't know. You give me Ken Harvey at first, batting third. I am out there at Kauffman. All right, on to the sports side, Sean. Which, by the way, when Ken Harvey played first and batted at top five, nobody else was out there, so it would be nice if people showed up to see that. All right, sorry. NFL draft, Chiefs draft, and then also some mid-round stars for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do very good with this one.
Oh, you're
Let's try the mid-round stars.
Mid-round stars for you, okay. He played running back in college before changing positions with the Chiefs. But in his 7 years, he ran plenty back for KC.
Thinking.
Now, Sonny wanted to be X'd, but you got to factor in, a lot of different things here.
Yeah, that's who I was going with. I was thinking Dante Hall.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That's who you're going with. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I was just talking about what you were doing. Is Dante Hall your guess?
Jason, what do you think it'd be like if the Chiefs had different guys return punts when guys are fumbling? Like, what if Dante Hall was back there?
Don't give away the answer.
No, sorry.
Sean hasn't guessed yet,
Sorry,
Josh.
I actually don't have the answers.
Sean,
this could be anything.
What's your guess?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Dante Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was not Dante Hall. That was, we were looking for Snoop Minnis. Dante Hall is correct, sir.
Niall Davis ever throw up the X?
Sean, we will put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely. We would have also accepted Lake Dawson. Dante Hall. That's great. He got he wanted to be X'd out. But you got to factor in everything. So nice job, Sean. All right, let's go to.
There's only one X factor in my heart. And he's not allowed at the stadium anymore.
No, but you know what? That's because we're all Chiefsaholic. We're all drunk on Chiefs. So we just need more X factors to, help us get a little intoxicated, a little inebriated with Chiefs. Avery, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
You still got that Frank White question from last week about who started the most?
No, we don't, Avery. Pick a new one.
Yeah, because that one got answered last week, okay? It was Frank White.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, it didn't get answered, but we gave out the answer at the end.
George
Frank
Brett
White.
Veach is gone too, okay?
Well, George Brett was the second most.
What's your favorite Ken Harvey highlight? Him getting hit in the back from Matt Stairs in outfield, him getting stuck behind the tarp, or him blocking Jason Grimsley in the face?
Any of them. Like the chance of that happening out at Kauffman Stadium tonight, I guess they're off. But when they return home after this 10-game homestand, that Ken Harvey is, playing first base. Who knows what could happen? Like, you might see something you've never seen before in baseball.
Grimace, what a legend.
That's great.
I'll start with the royalty one.
Oh, okay. We're on
Ken
the
Harvey.
leisure side first, and Ken Harvey's royal to me. I need you to tell me the name of the main royal, and I would say the villain in the iconic Princess Bride.
Prince Humperdinck.
Boom. Nice. Absolutely correct. Absolutely excellent. Prince Humperdinck is getting you closer to Johnny's. What a win.
All right, sports side for you, Avery.
We do mid-round stars.
Okay. Adopted as an infant, he was adopted by the Chiefs when the team drafted him in the 5th round out of California. He was traded 3 years later, but would play a total of 11 years in the NFL.
Oh, are you talking about like Scott Fujita?
I mean, I can't just tell you who I'm talking about.
It's like Jeopardy rules, man.
I mean, it's.
All right, I feel like maybe Scott Fujita did that. So I'll say Scott Fujita.
We would have accepted Dante Hall as well, or Snoop Menace. We would have accepted him. Scott Fujita, that is correct. I figured if I said adopted as an infant by a Japanese-American family, that might be too much of much of a hint. Probably wouldn't even need to get to the end of it if you're like, oh, yeah, Scott Fujita. Oh, cool. Well, I'll tell you about everything else. Avery will put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Super duper.
Yes. Let's go to Kyle next. That's back-to-back, by the way. Let's go to Kyle next up on Sports Radio 810, The Zone, presented by Google Fiber, Sports or Leisure, presented by Johnny's Tavern. Kyle, what side do you want to start with?
Not that it really matters, but it's Charles, not Kyle.
It's what is it, Carl?
It's Charles, not Kyle.
Charles.
Good on you for being like, this could be me.
Yeah. No,
I'll step in.
He heard the in his ear and figured I'm on, but if you call me Kyle, call me Charles. Charles and Kyle typically,
Hey, Charles, don't sweat it. I'll let Break know.
Just don't call me late to dinner.
That's right. You can call me Charles. You can call me Kyle. You can just don't call me late. All right? Surely you can get a couple of these, right?
Let's do the 5th grader.
5th grader.
5th grader. I was just staring at Jason's like, what was that?
Yeah,
don't worry about it, Kyle. I got you.
You're making fun of me for not understanding what he said.
Next time, if you could just call in on not a Nokia, I guess. No, your connection's fine. Don't sweat it.
I thought you were pausing because of the phrasing. When he said, let's do a 5th grader.
God.
He said that. I did not say
Well,
that. I thought that's what you were pausing
just
for.
Said it, man. You know I have to cut that. It's my
No, you
job.
don't.
It's my job to cut you the dumb things you say.
You can't cut what I'm just repeating. That's a rule. We wrote it down.
Kyle Charles, what's 14 times 5?
14 times 5. 60.
No.
I knew this was going to be a dangerous. I knew this was going to be a dangerous evolution for the 5th grader question.
You know what? We'll just say that was Kyle. Don't worry about it. Kyle was.
I don't want him to give it away. Well, people are going to think about it now, which is fine. But
yeah, I don't think you're much of giving. I don't want people to call in.
I'm tired of people giving away my answers, man.
And give away the
You can't even win a gift card.
5 times 14. I don't want to give that away. You know what, Charles?
I want
tell
people to
everybody
call
it wasn't
in
you.
confidently.
It's like, no, it wasn't me. It was a dude named Kyle. Didn't you hear that? It was some Kyle guy. I don't know.
Math is a cruel one because you have to do it quick. I thought about having Drake put the shot clock on the math questions, but Kyle Charles was like so ready to go with it. It's never be confident in the math you do. That's the lesson, kids.
Carl's. Chile.
I like. Which one's better?
I don't know, but
Childs.
I'm still concerned
Like
about you
Childs.
ignoring rule number 17 of repeating somebody else's phrase does not constitute a cut. It's rule number 17. It's written down.
Where's the? I don't have 1 through 16. Well, number 1 is anything Jason says can be cut regardless of context. That was Corey did a good job with that one.
Oh, I didn't see the fine print of rule number 17. See rule 1.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It explicitly does not include you.
Stupid. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. Sports or Leisure. More next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is the official broadcast partner of the NFL Draft in Kansas City. We'll have live broadcasts from Radio Row, the NFL Experience, Union Station, Arrowhead, Power and Light District, Big Brothers Big Sisters Draft Night event, and from our broadcast headquarters. We'll bring you all the selections live as they happen, interviews with Brett Beach and Andy Reid, and introduce you to the newest Chiefs draft picks. So listen to the NFL Draft with me, Soren Petro, Curtis Siebold, and former Chief Mark Borichter on your home of the NFL Draft in Kansas City. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey folks, it's Todd Lebo here for my good friends at Robert Brogdon's Olathe Buick GMC, home of the 90-day money-back guarantee on all new vehicle purchases. You know, Brogdon is the #1 seller of GMCs in Kansas and Missouri, and the #1 seller of Buicks in Kansas. It's a great family-owned dealership. They've been in town for over 25 years, and they've got a strong commitment to community and to customer service. Brogdon, of course, has the largest selection of new Buick and GMC models in the area, nearly 150 in stock, and always more on the way. They have a huge selection of GMC Sierra trucks for all of your business needs as well. And, of course, that 90-day money-back guarantee on new vehicle purchases. Go by and say hello. They're at I-35 in Santa Fe. Whether you're looking for new or used or you need to service your vehicle, Brogdon has it all for you right there. You can find out much more information online at BrogdonAutomotive.com. That'll show you everything they've got going on at Robert Brogdon, Olathe Buick GMC, and Olathe Kia, which is just across the street if you're looking for a Kia. They've got it all right there.
Filled with innuendo.
Do not talk about my wife, nor my mom.
This is not all right.
Not right. All right, let's get to it. Matt, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, bud?
Let's go mid-round.
All right. Mid-round stars for you. Drafted in the 3rd round, he played 5 years for the Chiefs, including as a rookie. A dramatic play in overtime against the Chargers on Monday Night Football to win the game. Football drama wasn't the only thing he trafficked in.
I'm going to go
round?
with the
Go ahead.
trafficking part and guess Tamarick Vanover.
Hey, well done. All right, nice job. Nice job. Tamarick Vanover had the punt return on Monday Night Football in overtime to beat the Chargers and to win that game, and trafficked into other things too, besides just big plays and emotional moments and highlight reels. So on to leisure with Josh.
What category would you like? We got Remembering the Royals, the commonly misspelled word spelling bee, the Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, and the pun name game.
Tempted to take that math question, but I'll go
It's
with the
there.
fun name game.
Okay, I was saying it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Somebody
too
with
easy.
math confidence should really sweep that one up. But on the pun name game side, this iconic soda boasts about its 23 flavors. Though I question its medical knowledge, I'd be more confident in the knowledge of this CEO of Stark Industries and love interest of Tony Stark as played by Gwyneth Paltrow in the MCU.
Oh, wow. Her last name. That might
Dr. Pepper Potts.
Yes, nice job. Nice job. I always
Great
forget
work.
the last name. Nice job.
Great work.
Well done, Matt. We'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Job, man. I always forget Pepper's last name. I would have been stuck at Dr. Pepper.
Which
wouldn't
have would not have qualified.
You've got half of it. Well, no, actually, I feel like I've got 2/3 of it.
Picture. Yeah, I said Gwyneth Paltrow, man.
Pepper? Peter Pepper.
Dr. Pepper Stark.
Peter Piper picked a Peckers. I don't know. Let's go to Craig next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Craig, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Either one. I called in a year and a half ago and missed all 3 Fight Club questions from you. You remember that?
I do. Yeah, I do. It was from Corey.
Corey's mom's something. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's right. You were like, no, I love Fight Club. Well, here are the different. All right, let's try this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that one. I'm not sure you like Fight Club.
You said the worst caller ever.
And it took you a year and a half to finally give us another chance.
Redemption
Thank
is
you,
here, though, Craig.
We are getting this one. We are winning this.
I still don't know Meatloaf's name. I don't know what it was. I think it was Kevin or something.
Who does? Who knows his name? Well, you want sports or leisure to start?
Sports.
All right, we got NFL. We have NFL draft. We have Chiefs specific draft, and then we have mid-round stars for the Chiefs.
None of them. I'll take.
I love
I'll
your
take
energy.
leisure.
You'll start with leisure.
Which
Okay, very good.
which leisure category did you like?
Any of them.
Just pick one.
Just throw it out there.
Dealer's choice.
I'm not winning anything.
You have really brought it.
a Fight Club question.
A defeat. Oh man, if I could find a Fight Club question, that'd be great. Let's go. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? During World War II, on D-Day, what location did the Allied troops invade Europe at?
Normandy.
There we go.
There we go.
That was there for you. Let's build some confidence. You hit a shot. Let's hit another one.
All right,
Let's
very
send
good.
you to Johnny's.
Very good. That cold streak is over. Now let's get hot here. All right. NFL draft, Chiefs draft, or mid-round stars?
Chiefs draft.
All right, Chiefs draft. All right, so
no.
name anybody drafted from Michigan State. Nailed it. Nice job. Well done. Let's go with this one. With just the current Chiefs players right now, just current Chiefs players, there are 3 different schools the Chiefs have drafted multiple players from. Name
On the current active roster.
On the current active roster that were drafted by the Chiefs, there are 3 schools that have multiple players on the Chiefs that they were drafted from. Same school. Name, let's go with any of them. Name any of the 3 schools that have multiple players on the Chiefs roster that they have drafted.
Does any of them start with an L?
No.
No.
In fact, if you spell every single those 3, there's 1 L that would be there. If all 3 schools combined with letters, 1 L.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving down the turnpike right now, too, so I can't really. We'll go with Texas Tech.
Hey, you knew there was at least one person from Texas Tech on the Chiefs roster that they drafted. But that is incorrect, Craig. Thank you for playing. I appreciate it, sir.
Call in 18 more months, okay?
Yeah. We'll talk to you in a year and a half. Can't wait, man.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Craig, you're the man. Appreciate it. 913-381-0810. I want to sneak one more in. It's been waiting a while. Andrew's been waiting a while. So, Andrew, sports or leisure. We'll still play on the other side of the break. But, Andrew, before we take a break, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Let's go with the royalty.
Who is the king of the gods at Mount Olympus?
Zeus.
There we go.
I thought I had a Travis Kelce clue and everything. Didn't need it.
Very good. All right, on
I
to the
was
sport.
about to say his name is Robert Paulson.
We'll go NFL draft, Chiefs draft, or mid-round stars.
Let's go mid-round stars.
Mid-round stars for you. Okay, drafted in the 3rd round. He never won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, but he did win the Outland Trophy in college playing in the Big 8.
Oh, my gosh. You went Big 8 on me.
Yeah. That's my eyebrows shot up, too.
Would it help you if I said he played every single year of his career with the Chiefs and is a Hall of Famer and never missed a game? And I believe started every game except maybe his first one that he came in relief. If my just general memory serves, I believe that that is correct.
Okay.
But 3rd round Hall of Famer, Outland Trophy winner.
Outland Trophy.
That's offensive line in the Big 8.
Will Shields.
Oh, there you go.
There we
go.
go.
Done and done. How about that? That's a winner, right?
That's a winner.
Zeus and Will Shields.
Zeus and Will Shields, 2 great answers.
That's exactly right. He was king of the offensive line, and
Sure
Zeus was royalty. Andrew, we'll put you on hold. Congratulations. Well done, sir. 913-381-0810. We take a timeout. We come back, continue rolling. More sports or leisure next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Jeff Briggs with Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the Victory Effect, our pledge to drive down vehicle pricing for the city we love. Folks, let me ask you a few questions. Are you tired of the traditional way of purchasing vehicles? Are you looking for a truly transparent dealer who gives you the best deal up front? A dealer that runs the highest Facebook and Google ratings in the Midwest? If so, why shop or buy anywhere besides Victory? Check out this offer for my favorite promotion of the year, Ram Truck Month. New 2022 Ram 1500 Laramies up to $10,000 off. New 2022 Ram 1500 Bighorns and Limiteds up to $8,700 off. These trucks range from nicely equipped to fully loaded. Certain models qualify for 1.9% interest at 72 months in lieu of the factory rebates. Come experience true transparency and true relational selling. Visit us at Kansas City's only automotive outlet mall, the Legends Auto Plaza, on the southeast corner of 435 and Parallel, just east of Nebraska Furniture Mart, or online at victorymotorskc.com, where our first price is better than their last.
Family Leisure is having our Factory Direct sale. Looking forward to spring for patio furniture or a new hot tub? Family Leisure has factory incentives going on now. Do you want to start a new career?
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, Thursday edition of the show. It's presented by Google Fiber. We're playing some sports or leisure as we wrap things up on this Thursday. 913-381-810, Sports or Leisure, presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you win. Either of them wrong, you lose. We have talked a ton of NFL football today, and draft and mocks and simulators, and hearing from Brett Veach, who talked for a half hour. So tons of stuff with that. And our categories on the sports side are NFL draft, Chiefs draft, and non-first round stars for that. So what about leisure real quick, as we have our final segment of about 5 minutes to go.
We got Remember the Royals, the spelling bee, the Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader questions, and the pun name game. And then just as a personal endorsement, if you get bored at any point, just Google Will Shields, Nebraska, and then Michael Bennett shoulder pads, and just look at those. That's what we were doing all break, and it is amazing.
Compare and contrast the shoulder pads worn in the early 90s versus the piece of
felt,
the paper towel that Michael Bennett wore underneath his jersey. All right, 913-381-810. Let's go to JT, who is next up to play a little sports or leisure right here on Sports Radio 810. JT, what side do you want to start with?
Hey, I'd like to start with the leisure first.
What category you want, JT?
Do you guys still have the 70 question?
The
the math question
just
that's
ding him,
70.
Drake. Just ding him. That's funny, and you've been listening to the whole hour.
The
God
previous,
bless you, JT.
you said about the math. I'm like, well, you probably have a 70% chance of getting it right.
Unbelievable.
If you just call in. All right, JT, on to the sports side. What category are you thinking?
Oh, can you give me the categories?
Yeah, no problem. There's general NFL, then there's NFL draft, Chiefs draft, and a non-first round stars that the Chiefs drafted.
Let's try non-first round stars.
All right, final one in this category. He was taken in the second round by the Chiefs, played over a decade, anchoring one of the most successful runs in Chiefs history, a recent Ring of Honor inductee. One of his claims to fame is Joe Montana used to touch his butt.
Yes. Sports Radio 810 employee?
I cannot give out that information because I'm not trying to dox him.
Yeah, we don't. So could be anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
He's an accomplished author, though.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
that is
I'm
true.
going to go with Tim Grunhard.
Yep, and he has experience with bats and other things. Up there. Yep, Tim Grunhard. That's right. Well done. Didn't even all the hints there. Were
No
there.
hints
just,
needed.
Just the Joe Montana touching his butt. Usually is immediate giveaway. All right, JT, we'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations. Well done. All right, let's see. It's just that easy.
Just that easy.
70
Tim Grunhard.
70% of the time, we get a winner 100% of the time.
Would you rather fight 70 Tim Grunhard-sized Tim Grunhards or
no
one Tim Grunhard? I don't know.
I'll take the or.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll take the or there. And even if I had an or, I would still get beaten up by Tim Grunhard.
He would take it out of your hands, and that would be
even with a weapon. Let's go to Andrew next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Andrew, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I'll do spelling bee.
Your word is acquaintance.
I'm going to go ACQUAINTENCE.
So close. Oh, no. Andrew, you're so close.
ANC.
Oh, it's so close. Oh, Dermot. Andrew, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Dermot. Oh, we wanted to end on like a streak, just a vowel away.
Well, it's out there.
All right, Shane next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Shane, sports or leisure?
Well, he really spelled acquaintance. Can I spell that?
I think if you can fire it off right now, you absolutely can spell it.
Yep, every letter though.
Okay, all right, gotcha. It would be ACQUAINTANCE.
Yeah.
Acquaintance.
Yep.
Wouldn't be a category if it wasn't missable, man. I'm not asking you guys to spell bed,
It's the A-E-B-E-D.
That's
D. The second D is silent.
Whoa. Maybe in your bed.
It's the A, the E. Well, I hope the second one is silent.
Yeah.
Let's go over to the sports side quickly, please. Shane, what category would you like, sir?
I want to take that Chiefs draft that's left out there.
Yes, the current Chiefs players right now on the roster, there are 3 schools that the Chiefs have drafted multiple players from. We said name one, so just name one. That's fine.
Well, yeah, I thought of a couple. But
name two.
Well, first one is Mississippi State.
That's right.
Yeah.
Willie Gay, Chris Jones.
Willie Gay.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other one I was thinking of was it slipped out of my mind now. I know you're short for time. Now I can't think of it. Damn it. Sorry. So was Oklahoma one?
No.
Well,
Oklahoma was not one.
Wasn't drafted, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, that was what I was thinking. And then, gosh, what was the other one? I had it on the tip of my tongue.
So there's two other
Tell
ones.
me.
There's
Sorry.
Florida State.
Okay, I didn't know
Josh
that one.
Kando and
Derek Nottie.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
And
the other one, I know, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Kelsey and Cook.
And Brian Cook.
Kelsey and Cook as of last year. There you go. That is a winner, right?
That's a winner.
Yeah.
And a new acquaintance of ours.
That's exactly right. Shane, we will put you on hold. Well done. Congratulations. Let's wrap things up with our final contestant being Jimmy. Jimmy, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
Yeah, that guy just answered the question I was going to answer.
The Chiefs drafts and schools and such.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of other Chiefs draft questions, but, whatever.
Actually, I snuck in. I'm still Craig from previous. That's the question.
No way.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Craig, we said 18 months, not 18 minutes.
I still would have lost the question, damn it.
You still would have got it wrong?
Yes.
What was your other guess going to be?
Well, I'm just driving. I can't cheat. So. All right. Fire away.
You know what?
Anything.
What the heck? All right. So, what school?
If you're out of time, just give me a gift card. I'm cool with that.
What school has the Chiefs? Have the Chiefs selected the most first-round draft picks from?
Oh, wow.
They've actually taken first-round draft pick 5 players from this one school in the first
One
round.
jumps to mind for me. I think it's got to be them.
Oh. Nothing local, I take it.
No. Nope.
Oh.
Let's see. 5 first-rounders, and one of them was worth it.
So far, it's playing into my answer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute here.
I know one that.
Texas Tech.
No, that is
No.
incorrect.
You said one of them was worth it.
Well, yeah, but this Texas Tech doesn't have. It's only one first rounder they drafted from Texas Tech. Craig, Jimmy, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for playing twice.
Is it? Can I shoot my guess? Is it LSU?
It is LSU. Do you know the 5?
I know Dwayne Bowe, Glenn Dorsey, Tyson Jackson, 1, 2, 3, real easy. I could not think of the other 2 off the top of my head.
You can't think. You.
Oh God.
You can't think
I
of
hate
one of the other 2.
How you're pointing at me so hard right now.
You specifically.
Oh yeah, Clyde.
There
is,
you go.
Sorry,
Clyde.
I erased that one from my memory. Sorry, man. Sorry. Look, sometimes traumatic things get repressed, and that was what I was doing there.
Harvey Williams, running back.
Wow. Okay.
Another running back from LSU, Harvey Williams.
Was he worth it?
He was fine. Bo was the one that was worth it.
Absolutely, he was worth it.
Yes. Johnny's Tavern is always worth it.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed.
Drake, I think you did a great job.
Good work, Drake.
Give yourself some more credit. Program next.
Barstool Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino and Shamrock Roofing and Construction are proud to bring you live coverage of the 2023 NFL